I assume the motion passes? Gotcha. Okay, we're going to move on now to the approval of the minutes. This is for the meeting of June 6th and June 19th, 2019. Looking for a motion to approve. Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Majak. Please vote. That motion passes as well. Okay, we're going to move on now to public participation. Does anybody from the public wish to address any of the items that are on this agenda this afternoon? If you do, you're going to get 5 minutes. Going once. Oh, come on up, miss. Go ahead. When you come up, please state your name and your city.
Hi, my name is Carol Chi. I live in Sterling Heights, 35325 Moravian.
Gotcha. Okay.
I didn't have a chance to look at the agenda, but I think you were going to talk a little bit about the proposed new jail, county jail.
That's correct. That is on the agenda.
Okay. And we just walked in a little late. We were busy with relatives here. Anyway, I've got a lot of relatives visiting me. I'm all for the new jail, and I would hope that the county commission gets really brave. Brave. Did I say brave? Brave. And please talk to the public and put this out for the public vote and let it go, because I believe torture went out with the Middle Ages. Torture went out with the Middle Ages. And if it's 115 or 120 degrees, or today it's probably 130 degrees inside some of the present county jail because there's no air conditioning, it's failed or whatever, if there ever was any air. That's just torture for the prisoners, including all the police, men and women that work there. And I know if I would work there, I'd be having a heart attack, and probably a lot of people could be, and getting sick, getting ill, whatever, getting heat stroke. That's not a good thing. And prison should really not be punishment as much as it is rehabilitating, getting people so that the recidivism rate is not 72 or 73%, I believe Mr. Wickersham told us at the North Macomb Democratic meeting, which I attended a couple weeks ago. So I'm all for it. Please, be brave or be replaced. Be brave. Okay. Address the people of this county. Tell them the good reasons. Tell them what's going on, and put it out for a vote. I think you owe that to everyone. We don't need the recidivism rate to be so high. It should be a lot lower, like it is in so many countries in Europe. We need to get people out of prison, get them back into society, have them voting, have them working, have them contributing to society, those that can. I'm not talking about people that have committed horrible crimes, horrible violent crimes and whatever, but so many have not, and they can be rehabilitated, and they really should be. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Anybody else? Okay, going once, going twice. Oh, got another person. Come on up, Gary.
Hi, Gary Sanoa. I live in Macomb Township. Leslie Cito is my county commissioner. And I too want to echo what Carol said. I believe firmly that we do need a new jail. Your timing in that, I don't know, about that. I'm certain there's more details on that and study you're doing right now. I know there's been several reports. Obviously, there's been a lot covered in the newspaper up to date. I'm concerned about the safety, both for the people that are in prison there and also for the workers. And that's a concern. I hear about ceiling tiles falling down right in the area where people are eating. I myself have been through the jail, not in it, but through it for a tour a long time ago. And even then, I know there are sections in there that are 65 years old. It's time to replace it. It's served well, and I know that when they do the building program, it'll take up to 4 years to get the thing into a situation where you can use it again. And I think we've been fortunate between the mix of working with judges to allow some inmates to get back out and get rehabilitated, that we haven't had the numbers we've had in the past. But there's nothing to keep that from happening, rising again. Plus, our communities are growing here, and there's a greater likelihood that we'll have more incidents. So we need a facility that will service everyone, including the inmates, their families, and our workers, as well as the community.
Anybody else? Anybody else for public? Okay, one more, come on up.
Hi, my name's Nancy Early. I live in Sterling Heights. Can I have a show of hands of who listens to the local news at night?
We can't respond to...
What?
We can't respond to any kind of public participation.
Okay, well, if you
we'll listen, though.
to the local news, you know that there is a fatality of, if not one, more in either Wayne County or Macomb County. And it seems like the crime from Wayne County is spilling over to Macomb County. It's Clinton Township, Roseville, Sterling Heights. Pretty soon, there's going to be more crime in Macomb County. So to get a larger facility to take care of the criminals would be a good thing, because some of these criminals, before they commit a fatality, may be able to get some rehabilitation, education, whatever can help them become a productive person in society. So a new jail with all the medical and rehab that will be to their advantage, I think is a good thing. Our society, some people in society just don't have the advantages of a good education, a good family, or they just get in the wrong crowd. It's not their fault. It's their choice, and they've made that. But when they go to jail, they should have the opportunity to bring themselves up if they decide to do that. And I think a new jail would be a great advantage for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll try the third time. Anybody else for public participation? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to close down public participation. Thank you very much. We're going to move on now to department recommendations. We do have item 6A. This was carried over from full board of June 20th. This is the prosecutor's request for independent legal counsel, and this is in regards to the Robert Davis FOIA litigation. If you recall, Chris Trebelak from Clark Hill was here last time. He had indicated that Robert Davis case has closed, so he didn't anticipate any further litigation. At the time, he didn't have a bill for us on what he had done. I will stress this, that he did his work without a contract. In the legal term, we call that quantum merit, but we indicated to him that we would postpone till today's date to give him time to give us a bill. He has submitted a bill. Looks like it's $19,000 worth of litigation fees. I know that Josh Van Lan is not here this afternoon. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see him over there. My eyes are bad. There you go, Josh. Sorry. All right. Any event, I don't think he plans on saying anything. I think everybody on this board is pretty familiar with the facts. But I guess we're looking for a motion to basically, we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to approve the retention of of Clark Hill as independent legal counsel for the prosecutor for that particular case, and we're going to have to approve his payment in the amount of $19,000. Looking for any questions? Leon? Well, do you want a motion, or do you want to discuss and then go to motion?
I don't want to discuss it unless there's a motion.
Okay, we'll make a motion. Looking for a motion to approve it. Any motions to approve?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to deny both the contract and payment of this bill.
So motion by Commissioner Carabelli. Was that support from you, Commissioner Drollet? All right, how about any discussion now? Drollet? Veronica? Commissioner Haw?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the motion by Commissioner Carabelli. I find it difficult when we had a very lengthy discussion yesterday on policy procedures and the way we handle things. I just want to ask, it says immediate and expedited approval and authorization prior to Clark Hill for Howard and Howard. Have we, the county, received a bill from Howard and Howard? Does anybody know that? And who would that go to? Would that go to you, Veronica?
No, I don't get
Can I ask her?
Sure, sorry. It's public
Again,
participation.
already.
Yeah. You can ask Veronica a question if she knows the answer.
No, he asked me if I get the bills, and I don't get bills.
I'm getting an indication from staff from Crystal, that we did not get a bill for Howard and Howard.
We did not. Did the county get a bill, the administration?
I don't know. I don't think we know
Okay.
the answer to that.
So I
Corporation Counsel, do you know if we got a bill from Howard and Howard?
Yes, there was a bill. It was sent back. There was no contract.
Okay, so in that particular case, the executive's position is that they're not paying the bill because there's no
We never
contract?
saw it.
That's correct.
Okay. Go ahead, Harold.
No, I'm done. I want to thank the commissioner for his motion. That's all I have.
Josh, did you want to say anything? Thanks.
I want clarification.
Just to clarify, there was a bill that was submitted from Howard and Howard to the county. The finance department decided on the advice of Corp Counsel not to pay the bill for the purpose that was stated in Corporation Counsel's letter. Other than that, the bill that was submitted by Clark Hill, I would just remind the board that by statute, when a county elected official is sued as a defendant in a civil lawsuit, this board is required to provide counsel for the elected official. In the Davis case, the prosecutor was sued as a defendant in a civil action. The law requires that you provide it. That's all I would say. As far as the amount of the bill, no comment. I would say that if at some point you chose to approve something for it, it would be reduced in case by any order if Judge Fonts later decides to grant attorney fees. That's all I'll say.
Josh, I got a question for you. The prosecutor could have been represented by Corporation Counsel, though, on that particular case.
Could not, no, because
The
Corporation
conflict?
Counsel was conflicted out.
Okay. Your position is the conflict created the
Yes.
need. Veronica, you're still on the list.
Yes. First of all, I need clarification on something. The Howard bill was not for this case, correct?
That is correct. The
there
Howard
weren't
bill was for another matter.
Okay, which I thought in that case that we were told, remember, I'm sitting,
Can I give you a point of information? The Howard bill, we authorized the attorney for the Howard case. We
but
authorized.
my understanding is we authorized, I asked specifically about that case. And in that case, I was told, well, there is a conflict only with respect to that case, and we authorized it for that case. So I didn't think there was a problem with the Howard bill, because
No.
I asked Court Counsel about that. So Maynard, Howard is the firm, Maynard is the case. Okay, that's the one that bill is for that got denied.
That is correct. But this board, if I may, we can look at minutes, this board did authorize Howard and Howard to represent, and John,
Yes,
you're
we did,
here.
but John-
John, you're here, but my understanding is there was a retainer agreement on that case, but it was signed by Eric Smith as opposed to the prosecuting office. Is that correct, John? So the reason why the executive is not paying that bill, we authorized that. We authorized Howard and Howard to represent the prosecutor on that particular case. He billed $10,000. The problem was the contract was signed by Eric Smith, not Eric Smith, the Macomb County prosecutor. So because we authorized representation for the county prosecutor, and the bill was
Right.
submitted for Eric Smith, it's been the executive's position not to pay that one. This
Right.
is a different case.
I understand that. Can I get out what I want to say? Because there's a whole lot of explanation coming at me on
Relax,
things that I
here's
just
the-
want to...
I'm not trying to shut you down. I want
Okay.
you to say what you're saying. I'm just trying to make
Okay.
sure we're on the same
So,
page.
John, I have a question for you regarding that, because I specifically asked in that case, was there a conflict, and did we do the right thing by giving him an attorney in that case? And I thought you indicated in that particular case, we didn't have a choice.
We're talking about the Maynard case.
Yes.
Okay.
In the Maynard case, there was a retainer agreement signed by Eric Smith. There was never a contract of the county to pay the attorneys. A contract by the county under the contracting ordinance would require signature by the executive and approval by the Board of Commissioners. That contract never came into being. A bill was produced for the services. It went straight to finance, as far as I know. Because there was no underlying county contract, the county declined to simply pay money.
Okay, so my question with respect to that one is, there was an agreement with regard to that case that there was a conflict, that particular case we were doing the right thing by allowing the attorney. Is there any way we can rectify the fact that it wasn't a written contract? There may have been a letter of agreement or something.
No.
Can we rectify that?
You can't get around the lack of contract. The contract is key. To bind the county, and this is the contracting ordinance language, any contract that does not comply with that ordinance is not binding on the county, and it is null and void as far as the county is concerned. To form a county contract, it requires the executive's signature and the Board of Commissioners' approval. Neither of those steps were ever taken in the Maynard matter.
No, we did an emergency bypass, and then after the fact, the full board voted
emergency bypass
on
was
it.
just to get it on the agenda. That didn't approve a contract. There never was a contract.
All right, okay. All right, we're going to set that one aside. That,
Well, that's a different issue than what's on the agenda.
that's why I said I'm going to set that aside. With respect to this agenda item, I just wanted to point out that the BOC's recommendation sheet is the recommendation sheet from the individual one, talking about declaratory judgment and all of that. It's identical. So this recommendation sheet belonged to the Maynard case. I just wanted to point that out. And that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Drollet?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just need a little bit of a clarification. Mr. Van Land stated that there was a conflict, and that's why he claims that we're obligated to hire outside counsel. I agree that he's required to have counsel, but we have corporation counsel. To my knowledge, there is no conflict with that particular case, with the case before us now, and I'll ask our corporation counsel, was there a conflict in this particular case? I know there was in the Maynard case with a cross complaint, but in this particular case, did the county file some sort of cross complaint, or did the county act in some manner to undermine the prosecutor?
In the Davis matter, I don't believe there was a conflict or that there could be a conflict because the prosecutor was never a defendant in that case. He was not a party in the case. Davis filed against the county only. The prosecutor, through this law firm, pushed their way into the case later.
Well, wouldn't you still be involved in the case if the county was sued?
We were. We represented the county all the way through that case.
Okay. So the county was represented by corporation counsel through this case. The case is now resolved,
Case
correct?
is over.
Okay, so it seems a little odd that there'd be an outside attorney deciding that they want additional funds in some manner.
I found it odd that an outside attorney would try to represent someone who was not a party to that case. They just weren't a plaintiff, they weren't a defendant, they were nothing.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
an interested outside observer at best.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hawk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think he just answered the question, because at one time you were mentioned as part of this case. Is that correct? The Davis case? You were no longer involved?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, Shapka dismissed me in 24 hours.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you for that.
Less than 24 hours I was dismissed, right. Are you done?
Yes.
Let me say this. We have a motion on the table with respect to this. And as Commissioner Kleinfeld said, there's probably some issue on the Maynard case about that attorney being hired and Howard getting paid for that. That might be something that might come back up again. I agree with Commissioner Kleinfeld on that. But on this particular case, Corporation Counsel is correct. This Chris Trebelak from Clark and Hill, to protect either, in his mind, the prosecutor or Eric Smith, he jumped into the case. And if you recall, when he was in front of us last time, when we had this at the full board on June 20th, I had said to him, I said, look, you jumped in without a contract. I said, you're basically working on quantum merit services. And he laughed, and he said, that's correct. We do that. Sometimes attorneys jump into things because they think there's a need for a defense. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But he did what he thought was right as an attorney, but he did it at his peril. He did it without a contract. So, and he acknowledged that, and I asked him what happens, and he said, well, my bosses at Clark Hill might be mad at me, okay? But he acknowledged he did it without a contract. So it comes down to this. If you think this attorney did some work and deserves payment, that's a quantum merit argument that he could make. If you think this attorney did some pro bono work and can chalk it up to the bar as doing goodwill work, then you don't give him the money. He didn't have a contract. That is clear on this case here. I think the case Commissioner Kleinfeld was talking about has some issues. But this case here, there's a motion on the table. Anybody else want to talk? Okay, on the second round, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Just accept that we can vote whatever we want. It's not going to get paid. The last one didn't.
That's probably true. I'm ready to vote. Call the vote. Okay. Josh, go ahead. You want to come back up? Josh, hold off. I got Marv. Go ahead, Marv.
You know, we can't set a precedent here in paying some attorney for not giving the right paperwork. If he didn't submit it, don't pay him, period.
Go ahead, Josh.
All right, so just to correct what you were just told, Mr. Shapka said that the prosecutor wasn't sued in that case. That is wrong. The case was filed against the county and the prosecutor. This is the Davis case. The county, Mr. Shapka sent me an email saying, we do not intend to represent you or your office in the Davis matter or these other two matters. I have an email from him. I submitted it. After that happened, Corporation Counsel entered an appearance or filed a stipulated request to dismiss the case on the prosecutor's behalf. We found out about it after the fact when we got an order from the court. And they did that so that they could then enter an order granting whatever Davis wanted without our interference, according to them. So the only reason that at some point the prosecutor was not a party to this suit, he was a defendant, named defendant, and the only reason he wasn't a party was because Corporation Counsel went into court, asserted that they were representing us in a case where they sent me an email saying they would not represent us in that case, and they went in and entered a stipulated order on our behalf. That's why the prosecutor at first was not, there's an appearance that he wasn't part of the suit. At that point, we had no other option to immediately go to Chris Treblecock from Clark Hill and say, what do we do? And so he had to go to court and file an emergency motion to set aside that order, which we didn't need to because the court jumped in and found out about it and set it aside, and then went to court to say, hey, we got to have a say in this. You can't just dismiss one party so that you can try and get whatever you want out of somebody you agree with. That's what happened. So for him to stand up in front of you and say that we're never a party and that this was all some voluntary thing where he just tried to inject himself, not true. And for him to not tell you about the email that he sent me saying we will not represent the prosecutor's office in this case, in this FOIA lawsuit, in this FOIA matter at all, is absolutely absurd. And so, regardless of whether that changes your motion or your decision, at least you should be voting on the basis of legitimate information. And that's the truth of what happened in this situation. So.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm leaving my motion stand, but I strongly suggest that if there's an email saying that you would not be represented by Corporation Counsel, that you send that here to the board office because this can be brought up for reconsideration later. The reality is that I've never heard of an email other than right now at this minute saying that you weren't receiving representation. But that doesn't forego the process that we have for purchasing. So there's a dilemma. So I stand by the motion that I made right now. I strongly suggest you give us that information so we can look at that. But there's nothing else that's in front of me today that would change my mind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Commissioner Lucido.
Josh stated that he turned the email in. Does that mean that you have a copy of it?
I don't. If I believe he turned it in, but I haven't seen it. I can't see
it
with my eyes.
Do you know who you turned it into, Josh? Okay. All right, we haven't seen that either. Thank you.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
here's what I'm having a problem with. I wasn't at that last meeting, but I know that it was tabled, and it was tabled again. So what he's saying is they went to the attorney having already not been approved by the board and knowing that they weren't approved by the board, and said, what do we do? And used an attorney after standing in front of us, and the board, they didn't deny. I voted to deny in committee. The board didn't deny, but the board didn't approve, and they knew that the board didn't approve, and then they continued to use the attorney after that, and I'm having a hard time with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Drollet.
Don't mean to drag it out, but maybe we could hear from our Corporation Counsel just in case there's I'm curious about what Mr. Van Land said.
I think that's fair.
Mr. Van Land represented that I sent him an email. That is a lie.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
That's a lie. I didn't send him any email. Eric J. Smith was not a defendant in the matter. The prosecutor's office was named. That is not an entity that exists. It is a division of the county. Read the charter. It's a county department. We represented the county and the department. The department was dismissed almost immediately, just like departments always are in every case that we handle, because they do not exist as legal entities. They cannot be sued.
Commissioner Drollet, you still have the floor.
Thank you. I'm done.
Okay. Commissioner Duje.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me see if I've got all this straight. Somebody filed a lawsuit. You were involved in it.
No, I wasn't involved in that one. I was sued in a different one. But that,
Well, okay, but you got let go on one. Everybody
within 24 hours.
Everybody seems to have been let go on lawsuits. There is no purchase order, there is no RFQ, there is no RFP, there is no contract, there is no nothing. I'm not a lawyer, but if I don't have a contract and I don't have any of this other stuff, then you can give me all the bills you want. I'd have no responsibility to pay any of them. And if somebody comes up and gives us a bill, I liken this to somebody walking into this office into this meeting right now and handing you a bill for $50,000 for haircuts. Was it done? Who knows? Was there a contract? No. So, you know what? We can sit here and argue all we want, but there is no contract, therefore there is no legal entity for us to pay or otherwise. Thank you.
I'm just going to say one thing, again, and it just deals with the term of quantum merit. I'm not advocating this position. It is possible that somebody can do work if what Josh Van Land says is that we have an obligation to give independent counsel to somebody, and we don't, and then there's some lawsuit related to that. That could happen, but that's a stretch. I'm not saying, just be aware of that, but there's a motion on the table. I don't think there's any other speakers, so let's call the vote. Hold on, Crystal's indicating a letter here. All right, let's call the vote.
Okay, can you restate the motion?
Yeah, the motion is to... Okay, so motion to deny the request in item 6A.
For the contract and for the...
Vote of yes is to deny.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, that motion passes 12-0. All right, moving along now to item 6B. This is an agreement for unique food management meal services for the Juvenile Justice Center. Rhonda here? Okay, come on up.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for being patient.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I'm here to request the approval of a contract with Unique Food Services. And just to give you a little background on the food services at the Juvenile Justice Center, we provide 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, a breakfast, lunch, and dinner meal. We are under the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program for our breakfast and dinner meals, which means those are qualifying meals that we get revenue for from the federal government. What I'm asking for today is that our dinner meal that we have historically prepared and delivered in-house, that be delivered to the facility and then as opposed to prepared by in-house staff. The cost of that would be the $80,000 that was reflected in the contract. This would be no additional cost to the county. The resources we would utilize from existing food service, the existing food service budget. This is a 1-year, a contract for, a request for a 1-year contract from August 1st until July 31st of next year. I will add that Unique has been providing this dinner meal for a few months now. When we lost a staff a few months ago, we did enter into an agreement to start doing that. It has been going smoothly with them. We did have 3 bids on the contract. This was the one who provided the cheapest cost. And there were a couple other elements that were looked at on the bids. One of them was just dramatically higher than the other 2. This was the lowest cost bid, not only the lowest cost bid, but the one that was most flexible in when we could order meals. One of the bids indicated that we needed to give them a 72-hour notice to make a change in a meal, whereas Unique, we could make a change in the numbers of meals delivered with a 12-hour notice. That left us in a little better position of the flexibility with that, not ordering meals that we don't need, so we could do a 12-hour notice on meals. Unique was also more flexible on meeting the medical diets for the kids as well, because this contractor would have to meet any medical needs for a medical diet. It's going to be more cost-effective for the county to do this.
Okay, I'll yield mine over to Commissioner Romano. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Rhonda.
Hello.
Just a couple quick. So we're paying from August 1st, 2019 to July 31st, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we paying ahead, and why don't we get the service first and then pay them?
No, that's the contract term. I'm asking to enter into a contract with Unique Food Services for a year. And during the course of that year, that contract would cost $80,000. So they would bill us weekly for meals that are delivered over the course of the next 12 months.
Okay. And the other question I have, is there a cancellation clause in case we don't like the food?
There is. It's a 30-day clause.
Thank you. That's
Yep.
all I have. Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome. Commissioner Carabelli?
What did we pay on the last contract, total?
This is the first contract we've had. Historically, our meals have been prepared by in-house staff.
Okay, and did we explore using the jail services for their meals?
We did look at that. We looked at, we had a discussion with Martha T. Berry. We had a discussion about a year ago looking at a collaborative agreement with them. I did talk to the vendor that does the jail. They're more in line with more of a correctional diet. They have less expertise in the National School Lunch Breakfast component. They did not bid on this also. They were aware that it went out for bid, and we didn't see a bid from that provider.
Okay, and let me re-ask that question again, and I apologize. What was your cost with employees doing this compared to what you're paying now?
We're going to save about $63,000 in personnel costs.
And what about the actual cost of the food?
The actual cost of the food will be zero. We're transferring the money from one line, from the food line.
I'm sorry, let me ask that again. The labor to actually make the meals and the food for you to purchase it cost compared to going out to a vendor and buying it all prepared?
Having a vendor bring in the dinner meal will eliminate 1 FTE with benefits, which is about anywhere from about $60,000 to $64,000 savings. The cost to actually buy the meal from Unique is money that we will be transferring from our food line, because we're going to be saving money preparing that food in-house So there will be zero cost for the actual food. So the net gain for us is about $60,000.
Okay, thank you.
You all set, Commissioner Carabelli? Okay. Any other questions? All right, I need a motion on this. Anybody want to make a motion? Support by Sauger, or by Sauger, supported by Brown.
No, why don't you do it reverse?
Go ahead, please vote. Motion passes 11-0. Okay, thank you, thank you. Item C, 6C, budget amendment from the clerk's office, election department establish a campaign finance fine collection budget. This will be interesting. Our clerk, Fred Miller.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thanks for having us today. So this item has to do with a program that we started this year in conjunction with the Treasurer's Office having to do with stepped-up enforcement of our campaign finance law. Without going into too much detail, we're closing out our first part of the program that we announced earlier this year on Friday, which is our second chance program where campaign finance scufflaws can take advantage of an incentive, a reduction in their fees to get their paperwork in order. The next part of that, as announced, and our intention is to have stepped-up legal enforcement working with Corporation Counsel to pursue legal action to collect those outstanding fines and fees. In order to do that, requires this $27,500, which represents filing fees, postage, additional postage for certified mail and otherwise, and then paying mileage for the treasurer's property tax collectors to go out and visit with people if need be to pursue collection. The good news is this doesn't have an impact on the general fund. We identified a source of funding. You all know that when you file for office, it's a $100 filing fee. Upon winning the primary, you get your $100 refunded. The runner-up gets their $100 refunded. Everybody else forfeits their $100. So that money has accrued in a fund of the county for several years, has not been utilized for anything. And so we, in looking at the budget, our Director of Elections, Michael Grix, is here, and identified this, and so we recommended to Finance that we needed these extra resources, and instead of asking for a general fund appropriation, we wanted to identify these funds. So what the proposed action is here is to create another cost center within the budget, so it will be part of your budget every year going forward. That would be the campaign finance fine collection budget, which would have this money, and then if it weren't utilized, or every year you'd be able to have a chance to take a look at it and make it in accordance with the budget. So that's what we're asking for today.
So moved.
Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I think we just did a motion.
Sorry, I was talking.
Fred, with this funding, this program was presented by you and, I believe, Treasurer Roca.
That's right.
A couple months ago, maybe
Yep,
2.
in May, yep.
How quickly can you implement the program? Because I thought at that time, the amounts you were looking at going after were somewhere in excess of $500,000 to $600,000. So what is your time frame for implementation?
So the first part of our program, the second chance program for people to take advantage of the rebate or the reduction in fees, is Friday. So that's kind of the opportunity for everybody. At that time, there was 117 committees, which were ballot question, candidate committees, and other PACs and whatnot, to come clean, to update their paperwork, to pay their fines, and then qualify for this reduction in fees. That ends on Friday, and then now, in assistance with Corp Counsel, we're going to start pursuing collection legally and otherwise. So
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Fred, I got a quick question. On your first round of trying to get some collections, how did you do? How much did you get?
I'll ask Elections Director Mike Ricks to come up and talk. We were hoping to, we'll give you a more in-depth look, but we anticipated this question, so Mike can talk a little bit about what we've
Come on,
done and
Mike.
what we've seen.
Good to see you, Mike.
Happy to do it. Good afternoon. The program is, as Fred said, ends on Friday, so obviously we don't have final numbers because it is still ongoing, and we are actually receiving quite a few phone calls and emails and contacts from people who are trying to get in by the end of the program. But we did put together numbers as of July 15th, which was this past Monday. At that point, we have had 20 committees come current on all of their paperwork. 17 of those committees paid the various fines that they owe for a total of just over $6,100. I know we have had probably at least a half dozen committees in the last 3 or 4 days who have filed some paperwork and paid their various fines. So, as I said, I don't have final numbers. We'll be happy to get those to you once we have them, but I know it will increase from the 6,100 we have so far.
Keep up the good work. Those politicians are a lot like attorneys. You know, you got to keep motivating them. All right. Commissioner Drolet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The money collected from these degenerates who are late on paying their filing fees, couldn't that be used to, is that being used for enforcement too, or is that going to a separate fund?
That is, if I understand your question correctly, that is the money we're requesting to use.
Oh.
I'm sorry, that's not true. I misunderstood.
The fines would refer to the general fund. So that goes back to the general fund for you all to spend at however you see fit. The other money we identify was money part of this fund that was just sitting there and hadn't been utilized, and so rather than have an impact on the general fund, which is so much under pressure, as you well know, we thought, why not utilize this money that doesn't have another purpose, as another identified purpose.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Mr. Brown?
Thank you. What are you doing for collections? I mean, what the treasurer's got a collections office. It's a little bit different collection. I mean, what's your collection team? I mean, show up at their door with 2 guys and a gun. I mean, how do you? I mean,
So I was being motioned over. Thank you, Clerk Miller, Joe Biondo for the County Treasurer, Lawrence Rocca.
And they've already been noticed by letters and so forth. I guess we sent them a certified letter. That's a little bit more than maybe we've done in the past, but beyond that, I mean, what are you going to do to collect more money more quicker than has been done in the past?
So
with this additional money that you've got in the budget now.
So the new step going forward is to step up enforcement through collections. We're going to have Corporation Counsel start filing civil lawsuits, and we're going to make sure that they're served with the summons, and we're going to make sure that they go to court and go through the process. If not, we'll get a default judgment, and then we'll collect on the judgments that we either get through the default judgment process, or if they come in and contest, if it's possible, we'll settle the case with them if they're willing to be reasonable. Basically, we're stepping up civil litigation as the enforcement piece on this joint project with the clerk's office.
If we're using in-house counsel, why do we need $27,000 to do that?
So that's going to cover the filing fees that would be incurred by Corporation Counsel primarily. That was a number recommended to us by Frank Risha with Corporation Counsel. If we have to do site visits, if necessary, to serve paperwork, we might go that route using our tax collectors since they're out in the field as it is. And then the mailing costs, we thought it was legitimate to have this in this line item so that it represents, quite frankly, to the county, the expense involved on collecting on these. And this was in consultation with Steve Smeagol, the Finance Department.
Was there a line item budget submitted to us indicating the estimated expenses for all those items you just mentioned?
Yes, that's what reflects, that's what makes up the $27,500 figure that's part of the request before the board today.
No, there's not a breakdown, is there? Next year, I'd like to see a breakdown of how that money was spent, if it was spent, how it was spent. Just 'cause I'm curious. Well, I assume so, but maybe we need more, I don't know, but, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Marv, go ahead. Go ahead, Amit.
Yeah, Fred, I just got a question for you. If people are behind on their fines from their dues they owe and everything else, and they're all candidates, when they file again, can you prevent it from being on the ballot, or can you hold it up, or what do you do? Say I didn't pay this fine from a year ago, and I'm charged so much with interest, and now an election comes up and I file again. Can you prevent that name from being on there?
It's a complicated question. It's a complicated question wrapped in a simple question. And it depends on which entity is the filing official. So, for example, for the three city elections that we're having in August, Warren, New Baltimore, and St. Clair Shores, the county clerk is not the filing official. So the city clerks in those cases would be the filing official. For county commission, state rep, and whatnot, those would be with county clerk. Our policy for how we handle those is we do a check when someone comes in and files their papers to run for office. We check the campaign finance record to see, and we've been told that while we cannot deny, we can't refuse that filing, what we can do is refer that to the prosecutor, because in signing your name, not you, but as a candidate signs their name on it, they're testifying to the fact that they are all current. And so thereby they're committing perjury, arguably. And so that would be for the prosecutor to decide if they wanted to pursue legal action to keep them off the ballot. But we've been instructed to accept those anyway and alert the prosecutor if that's the case.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, John, come on up. I have a question. Fred, you can stay there too, and this goes along with what Don Brown was asking. You know, sometimes a person comes into my office and they want to sue somebody, and I say, you got a great case, but you're not going to collect a dime from them. The corporation's done. It's defunct. Question I have for you, now these are committees that owe the money. Now, by virtue of the fact that when we all run for office, we have to sign an affidavit, does that personally guarantee you to the fines that would be imposed against the committee?
Okay, I followed right up to the last phrase. Does it?
Yeah, it's like an LLC. That's what my concern is. I mean,
does it? I think you're asking, are the members of the committee personally liable?
Yes, that's the question.
It would be the committee.
It would be the committee. So let's talk about...
The question of collectability would go to the committee, not to the individual members.
Right. Yeah, if the committee's dissolved and it's not there, we're not going to get any money necessarily.
Collectability really hasn't stopped us in collection actions. We routinely, probably to the tune of 100 actions a month, do collections for the sheriff, you know, for booking fees and things like that. And surprisingly, sometimes we actually collect money.
Okay.
The collectability quotient is not something we take all that seriously.
Well, and I think you'll trust, as an attorney, you'll decide this is viable, this isn't. I don't want us spending $27,500 on something that we're never going to be able to get anything potentially from. Do you follow me on that? Right. So I'm looking...
Yeah, we understand.
You understand that. Okay. That's along with what Don Brown was asking. All right. Commissioner Dujan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My understanding is after everything's said and done, if you want to run for office, you have to file a committee. That being said, I've had the experience, we'll say, of certain individuals that needed to pay off their fines before they could be allowed to run for office. I think this is a good idea. I wish you well, but each person on paperwork going into the committee structure has the person that's involved in the treasurer. Just because you say that you are now defunct doesn't mean anything, because the fines keep going up. Until you notify the clerk of what you're doing and how you're doing it, you're considered still a viable entity. So going after somebody like that, whether you think you're a non-entity or not, is not right. The clerk has every option, and he should go after people that are late on everything. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I guess I want to stress that, as we talked about before, the goal of this program is not to create revenue for the county. It's really to enforce the campaign finance law, and those are the tools that are given to us. So it's about making sure that paperwork gets in, so that you can look on the website and you have we all have all the information that we can get.
Fair enough. There's a motion on the table. Put it to vote. Motion passes 12-0. Go get him, Fred.
Thank you.
All right. Next one here is item number D, contract with Tyler Technologies. Fred, if you don't mind, before you say something on this, please. This is for all the commissioners. There was a contract that had originally been sent through the process to be approved to get on this agenda. However, there were some changes, and the clerk, to try to keep things moving along, would have liked to have gotten this new contract that hadn't gone through the approval process in front of us today. As of 3 o'clock today, about half the people that need to approve that new contract did so, but not all of them. And so my suggestion with respect to this item is that we table it for full board. That way, we can approve the actual contract that's going to be in front of us, because the contract that's in front of us now is not the actual contract that he's seeking. There were some minor changes. I had a chance to talk to Brian Burdick in the elevator on the way up here. Changes have to do with time of day, some other things. You can speak to that. They're minor changes, but let me just say this. We care about process with this board. And Crystal and I talked about this. We kind of come down on other departments and say, if you try to not follow the process, don't expect us to do something. Well, we don't want to do the same thing. We want to make sure we follow the process. So if it's okay, Fred, we're about halfway there from what I understand with the new contract and the process, and we'll just put it over to full board. I can waive it and put it over to full board, and we'll vote on it next Thursday if that's okay. Do any commissioners have questions with respect to that?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion postpone to full board, which is next Thursday.
Support by Majak. Thank you very much. Vote on that.
No. Can't vote if it's not there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want
Yes.
a physical vote?
Oh, all right, let's take a vote. All those who in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 12-0. Brett, if it's okay, we got a busy agenda today. The presentation would be next Thursday. Is that okay with you guys, if you don't mind? Thank you very much. We always like seeing you too, so. All right, we're going to move on now to item E. This is an agreement with Macomb Township Emergency Dispatch Services for the fire department. This is going to be Captain Dave Kennedy. Come on up. Okay, before he even speaks, support by, who was that? Lucido? Okay, I don't know where Mike's at, but go ahead before we vote on it. You can speak.
Shame on you, Michael.
By way of background, in 2018, Macomb Township Fire Department reached out to us and asked for some information regarding the ability for...
Hey, Dave, can you turn on your mic? Thanks. Sorry.
My apologies.
It's okay.
Once again, in 2018, the Macomb Township Fire Department approached us with a request to provide them with some numbers regarding our ability to provide them with dispatch service for their fire department. We put together a proposal. Unfortunately, they did not act upon it at that time. They reapproached us back in the spring of this year, and our communication administrator, Angela Elsey, who's seated in back here, worked with the IT department as well as the radio department to put together, to rework the numbers from 2018 to put together a proposal that was timely for current. As a result, we have this proposal now in front of us, which I provided you, asking for the ability to enter into the agreement. It's going to provide some continuity between the police and fire. As you're well aware, we police the township of Macomb now currently. And the difference is going to be that the fire department will also have record keeping through our agency as well. So everything will be done in-house for them. Couple of pieces of information. This is going to include 3 additional dispatchers. And just as an explanation, this will not create a new seat in the dispatch center. These dispatchers are going to be used to backfill for overtime and such. So we're going to absorb the workload amongst our current staff, and then these 3 additional dispatchers would simply be more bodies to put in those chairs.
Okay. Any speakers? Commissioner Jolette?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. We had been providing dispatch for the, obviously, police, because we are the police, essentially. I wasn't aware that we were not providing fire. I thought we were providing all dispatch from Macomb Township. I should know that.
We would take the emergency calls and then transfer them to the fire department.
Okay.
And they had their own dispatchers.
So you guys would take emergency calls and then transfer them to the fire department?
Correct.
Wow. I hope this would be more efficient. You just take them directly, right?
Well, Gabriel, if we want to come up here and speak to the actual workings of how it works.
Thank you.
We would take the emergency call, and we would maintain the call. We would not transfer the actual 911 call, but we would alert them via the radio system.
Okay.
And their dispatcher would man the radio for the entirety of the incident.
So this would eliminate that step. It would go directly to
Yes.
the
So
county.
there should be no delay in communication or relaying that information to the responders.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, it's not showing up, so, but, sorry. Okay. Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Thank you. So previously, we were performing a service, but we weren't charging for the service in the setup that it was before.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. That's for a discussion for another time. Okay, so I'm just curious, these refigured numbers, was that refiguring due to our vote on the 911? And did that have an impact on these?
No. No, these were reworked from, because the numbers were from 2018, so we had to contact Tyler, recontact Tyler, and get some new numbers from them to provide the
Okay.
service.
So it's emergency dispatch, but it didn't have, that vote didn't have any effect on these numbers?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Go ahead, Commissioner Drawn.
I'm sorry. But we're hiring some new folks at our dispatch center to help deal with the overtime, or to help reduce the overtime needs.
Correct.
And it was explained to us that there was, a significant amount of overtime issues at the, that exist currently.
Yes.
To what extent will this mitigate that overtime, do you know?
I haven't looked at it specifically to see how much impact it would have, but...
Here comes your backup. Sheriff Wickersham might have some thoughts.
Sheriff Wickersham, stepping in. It's not going to, the positions that are coming over are not going to eliminate the overtime aspect of it. What we're asking now is we're adding another responsibility to fire and EMS dispatchers. So with the additional personnel that are coming over from Macomb Township, we're going to be able to properly service those fire and EMS counties or departments that we have contracts with. So I don't want anybody to think we're hiring 3 additional dispatchers and Macomb Township's dying to lower my overtime. It's a need to take care of the fire EMS dispatching services that we do for...
So this won't have any effect on the overtime needs at the...
It may reduce it. I mean, there are going to be 3 additional positions that we're going to have in there. We're not adding another position on a schedule, but we're going to have another dispatcher that's going to be available to handle the fire side of things.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any other speakers? Any other speakers? We have a motion on the table. Might as well call it to a vote. Motion passes 12-0. Okay, we're going to move on now. So you might as well stay up there, Captain. We're going to move on now to item F. Go ahead.
Again, this is a budget amendment because of the agreement that's going to be put into place that will reflect the cost for this year of $752,420 additional in our budget.
Moved by Carabelli, supported by Kleinfeld. Any questions? Okay. Motion on the table. Let's put it to vote. That passes 12-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on now to item G. This is the purchase of a WestNet First in the Learning Core System and Radio Controller. Come on up, Brandon. Turn on your microphone if you could. You want to make a motion before you begin, since you guys like doing that? Commissioner Sager, supported by Commissioner Lucido. Go ahead.
So I am here for my first of 4 items before you today to seek the purchase of WestNet First in Alerting Core Systems equipment related to the contract that was just approved for dispatch services at Macomb Township. As Communications Administrator Elsie explained, they would take the 911 calls and then radio to Macomb Township, and then Macomb Township would page out the firefighters. This is the equipment that we use at Comtech to page them out directly from Comtech. So WestNet is our vendor that already currently provides this system for us, and this purchase will allow us to install at the 4 fire stations in Macomb Township the equipment needed in order to page them out directly from Comtech.
Okay. Commissioner Carabelli?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The cost of this equipment is covered by the contract?
Yes, it is.
So it's a wash to the...
It's in the first year. It's figured in the first year cost for the contract.
Correct.
Okay, and how long, your current system, WestNet is it called?
Yes.
How long have you been working with them?
That's a good question, Angela. Vicki?
For quite a long time. Fire departments in the county have.
Okay.
And when we went to contact exit system, we implemented for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I had a question along the lines of follow-up with Commissioner Carabelli. So the first year this is covered in the contract. Now, does this have any kind of like license fees, annual fees that we have to do every year?
It's my understanding that the fees that we already pay as part of the budget for the ongoing, this gets absorbed right into that. So there's no additional cost.
There's no initial cost. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, there's a motion on the table. Let's put it to vote. That motion passes 12-0. Going to move on now to H. Might as well stay up.
So with this item, we are seeking approval of the interlocal agreements between Macomb County and our regional partners under the Urban Area Security Initiative and State Homeland Security Grant programs. As I'm sure you're all well aware at this point, Macomb County serves as the regional fiduciary for federal Homeland Security grant funds that are passed through to the state and then passed through to us. This agreement is the legal mechanism that we use to establish the relationship between us and the other partner counties in the UASI region for us to reimburse them for their costs that they submit for reimbursement under the grant.
Moved by Carabelli, supported by Commissioner Kleinfeld. Any questions on this one? Okay, there's a motion on the table. Let's take it to a vote. That motion passes 11-0. We're missing one. One went to the bathroom. All right, we're going to move on now to item I. Go ahead.
Okay, so this item is the budget amendment that goes along with the 2018 Homeland Security grant that you all just approved the interlocal agreement for. The budget amendment is in the amount of $4,363,969, and cost center will be set up in Fund 350 to fund those expenditures. That is the total amount of the grant, inclusive of the portion that our region shares amongst the 7 jurisdictions, and then the total amounts that are distributed not only to Macomb County for our use, but to the other 6 partners in the UASI region for their use.
Okay, there's a motion to supported by Duje. One comment I'd like to make, this is no reflection on you. This is an interlocal government agreement, and my understanding under the charter is that if there was such a grant for an interlocal government agreement, that this board should have been notified about that. It's my understanding that this is the first time we've ever seen this grant. This isn't anything against you or what you're trying to do here today, but it's just something I want to, and this goes along with item, I believe, J as well, possibly. There's another one here with a grant. I and J, yes. So just so the board's aware, apparently we've never been notified about this grant. Now I've got Vicki coming up here. Maybe she has an answer for us on this.
Hello.
The board didn't approve it, essentially, the grant.
Right, because the grant is a standard grant that is between the state and Macomb County.
So like all grant agreements, we pass those through the exec's office. We normally come back to the board for the budget amendment, which he did.
Right.
We have always come back for the interlocal agreements for these grants.
Oh, so it's just a state to county?
Right, the initial
Okay.
grant agreement
Okay.
is between the county and the state, and we sign that. You're right, we've never brought that to the board, but that's because it's between us and the state, just like other grant agreements. The interlocals, we know, yes, those are interlocal agreements for us now to pass the funds we get through our state grant agreement onto the locals, and the interlocal agreement has always come back, and the budget amendment.
Okay, all right, thank you for the clarification, so everybody understands. Appreciate that, Vicki, as usual. Okay, other than that, are there any other questions on this? There's a motion on the table, let's move to vote. That motion passes 12-0. Came back from the bathroom. All right. We're going to move on now to item J. Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, last one for me.
Yep.
We also serve as the fiduciary agent for Operation Stone Garden Grant that is awarded from the state to Macomb County. This grant is, this grant provides for border security expenses for our law enforcement agencies along the international border, both the waterway border and, I guess we don't have any land border, but the waterway border. So this money is, we kind of lead a coalition. We serve as the fiduciary agent, and all of these entities, they have overtime costs that are related to border security. They have fuel costs for vehicles when the vehicles are used for border security, and there are some equipment purchases under this year's grant that some of them will likely come back to the board at a later date. But, so this is to approve the budget amendment in the amount of $200,000 so that we can perform our fiduciary responsibility for the Stone Garden Grant.
Moved by Carabelli, supported by Harold Haw. Don, you have anything you want to say?
Yeah. I didn't see it in here, maybe I didn't find it. Is there a breakdown of what communities are going to receive allocations of that $200,000 for their overtime costs? And
There are allocations to each community. I could tell you which communities they are. I don't have, I'm sorry, I don't have the allocations with me.
Could you just send it in a separate cover?
Absolutely.
And just, so we got the breakdown of where that money's spent?
Yep.
Just to give me, I used to know, but it's been a while. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, there's a motion on the table. Let's put it to vote. That went 11-0. Looks like another one went to the bathroom. So you got a couple 12s, a couple 11s. They're all unanimous.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Brandon. Okay, we're going to move on now to item K. Captain Daniels, come on up. This is for the purchase of a Tahoe.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, folks. Good afternoon. I'm here to ask permission to enter into an agreement with Todd Wenzel Chevrolet to purchase a 2020 Chevy Tahoe. This contract to purchase this vehicle was awarded to the lowest responsible bidder. That's Todd Wenzel Chevrolet out of Wayne, Michigan. The bid process was submitted, reviewed, and approved by Macomb County Finance Department and County Fleet Manager. This vehicle will replace an older model SUV from the Sheriff's Office fleet of vehicles. Total cost for this vehicle, including upfitting and graphics, will not exceed $51,294. The total cost will be paid from the 2018 Operation Stone Garden Grant that Brandon was just speaking about, and it will be assigned to the Sheriff's Office Marine Division. It will be used to support grant initiatives by allowing proactive border security patrols on numerous marinas within Macomb County, and in keeping with the original regional border patrol operational requirements. This vehicle will also be used to tow patrol vessels utilized in the Marine Division.
Moved by Carabelli, supported by Sauger. Any questions? Andre?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
This is going to be used exclusively on the Marine Division?
Yes.
Or, okay. Question, are they replacing a vehicle that they were using previously.
Yes, it's an Expedition.
Is that going to be on the auction that the county has? How much are these vehicles getting at auction?
I mean,
Ballpark.
Expeditions to SUVs go better than our Tauruses do, but still probably less than 10 grand would be my guess for this vehicle. I think it's got over 125,000 miles on it right now. It's got a fair amount of rust.
All
So,
right.
I mean, it
Well,
depends on the
Marine
condition of the
Division, yeah.
vehicle. Yeah.
And it's probably got fish flies in the
And the
engine,
train
too.
and things like that, yeah. But generally, yeah, I would say in the ballpark anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000.
All
That
right.
might be on the high end.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, there is a motion on the table. Let's put it to a vote. Twelve zero. That passes. Okay, moving on to L. Captain Daniels, go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also here to ask the board to approve the purchase, enter into a contract with Applied Concepts, who is doing business as Stalker Radars, to purchase 28 dash-mounted radars for sheriff patrol vehicles. Applied Concepts is an approved vendor listed on the state of Michigan's bid program, MI Deal. MI Deal is a competitive bid, as you probably know. MI Deal is a competitive bid purchasing program which allows Michigan local units of government to use state contracts to buy goods and services. These costs for this vendor are responsible and they are reduced for MI Deal members. They are a well-respected and established supplier of equipment to law enforcement community, and they are an essential functions of our job. Dash-mounted radars are used by traffic enforcement, which enhances the sheriff's office efforts to ensure a safer community. The cost of these radars is $48,619. An additional cost of $250 per unit will be paid to Macomb County Tech Services for each radar installed in our patrol vehicles. The total cost of this project will not exceed $52,369 and will be paid out of the Sheriff's Office General Fund for new equipment. With that, I'll take any questions.
Looking for a motion? Romano, supported by Lucido. Any questions? Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What percent of the vehicles, is this like a third of the vehicles, fifth, a half?
It would say probably over two-thirds of our vehicles are going to be patrol vehicles that are going to have these radars. Eventually, all of them, of our patrol vehicles will have
Okay.
them.
I wish Steve isn't here, is he?
No, he's not. I can answer his question for you, though.
Well.
Maybe I'm
no,
sorry. Maybe
here-
I get it.
Well, this is the thing. Well, we have costs, it's ongoing. We have contracts with communities that we use these vehicles in. And these are added costs. I want to make sure that are divvied up, so when we go renew contracts for communities, we can say, okay, well, it may have cost X for that radar when we started that contract. Now we have additional costs to this, and I want to make sure that we're capturing whatever costs that are attributed to the communities that we're contracting.
So we charge the community for every contracted position. There's $13,000 for every deputy position that we charge to each of our contracted areas. I have 30 contracted deputies in Macomb Township. You have 30 deputies that you're paying $13,000 apiece for. That's Macomb Township alone. So, and then you have overhead and ancillary
As
costs.
costs increase, it's just the documentation of tracking these increased costs, so when we go up for negotiations again for these deputies, we're covering what our expenses are.
Yep,
That's all I-
get that.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Anybody else? There's a motion on the table. Let's put it to vote. Motion passes 12-0. I'm going to tell my constituents to keep it slow, okay? All righty, take care. Is the results of the poll. Basically, this is a motion to receive and file the results of the poll that we did with Probleski Research. This was conducted in pursuant to a resolution, and looking for a motion to receive and file. Commissioner Gillette, is there support? Commissioner Lucido supports that. It's just a motion to receive and file, so we don't have to vote on it. Is there any discussion on it? Oh, we vote first, then we'll do it. Okay, fair enough. Oh, we just discussed it, then vote? I've only been doing this 6 months, you know? Come on.
Then you have discussion.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. So where are we at? Discussion, all right. I heard a motion, so gotcha. All right, let's go. Yep, I got him. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, the jail, I'm in support of a new jail. I worked in that jail, so that's got to be replaced, and I know someday I'll be replaced. But this survey that was done really gets me, or poll rather. We got over close to 700,000 voters in this county. And the amount of people that were asked these questions of, do we need a new jail? Excuse me, you got to pay for it, was just 0.6%. That's nothing. That's not even a poll to satisfy you to what you should do. But for people to take and call the newspaper up and say, we now, jail millage poll shows voters would reject the measure. How can you say that when only 0.6%? But you got your name in the paper, you're satisfied, but you didn't satisfy a lot of people who weren't even called on this thing. So I'm for a new jail, I'm against this poll, and anyway, somebody else can take over. I'm just so flabbergasted how they can take these numbers and make this sound like we got to defeat it.
Okay, Commissioner Brown.
How much was the final bill?
I believe it was about $7,000 what the final bill was for the poll. 7,700.
Thank you.
Commissioner Duje.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I voted against having the poll. I think it was a waste of money and a waste of time. Basically, it took away the sheriff's, the ability for the sheriff to lobby and to tell people about it. I've been walking door to door, and when you first say, do you want a new jail? People say, oh no, we can't spend the money. Then when you explain to them that it was built in 1953, we had 130 to 150,000 people in Macomb County when it was built. We're up at 875,000 now, and we're going to keep growing. And I'm very, very concerned about somebody getting killed in that jail. That's why I didn't think a poll was necessary. Go out and talk to the people about it and explain to them what it is and why we need it. I didn't like the poll then. I don't like the poll now. As far as I'm concerned, this was a tactic to not get this on a ballot this year. It's going to be on a ballot next year, but I want to make sure that we give the sheriff enough time to let him do what he needs to do, and that's explain all the intricacies of a new jail. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to thank you, Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Kraft, and those that were part of the process of selecting the polling firm. We approved up to $20,000 to conduct a poll to find out where the public stands that are likely, people who are likely to vote in the November 19 election. That was the original thing before us. And you guys ended up finding a polling firm that did it for $7,700. So you saved a huge amount of money, considering what we've spent already on this, the jail proposal of $1.7 million on the proposal. It's very small. Also, just to note that in polling, the poll was designed to reach out to people likely to vote in the November 19 election. So it was disproportionately focused on cities as opposed to townships, particularly voters who are likely to vote in a city election, which are the people who were likely to vote in the November 19 elections. So 400 folks is actually a very large number, considering the small number of people who are traditionally vote in odd-year city elections. You'll see statewide polls that poll 500 or 1,000 people for a statewide election. So I think it was good work done by the commissioners that were in charge of developing it, and I appreciate the work that you guys did in bringing it under budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. The reason I voted against the poll is we're polling people that have not been educated at all on an issue that we have been well educated on. And so the results how can you value the results when you know you're asking somebody who's never heard of the issue before? I am glad that we're looking at next year because I think that we need the time to educate, and I think if we put it on in 2019, that hasn't been decided, but that's what I see in the resolution. If we did that, I don't know if we could get the amount of education out that I think that we need to get out. Like I said, that hasn't quite yet been decided. We'll see what happens with your resolution. That's all, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Romano.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I think everything's been said that I wanted to say. I withdraw.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Joe, for withdrawing.
You're welcome.
Polls are a snapshot in time. I want to remind everybody in the last presidential election, the current president of the United States polled at 1%. All you are getting is a data point that provided demographical data that allows those that are going to be selling the jail proposal an opportunity to look at what's coming back in. It was not only are you in favor of a new jail, it was age, where you live, are you likely to vote, what's your number one priority. If we just took the poll at face value, we had to stop doing everything else we're doing and spend every dime we have on roads. That's what the poll said. That wasn't the intent. As one article came out, I look at that as one individual's interpretation of what he read in the poll results. You can go around this room and you'll pay, if there's 13 of us, no 12, you'll get 12 different opinions of what those poll results said. So I looked at it as an opportunity to give Tony and his team a chance to look at the demographical data and the primary issues and use that when we vote to put this on the ballot, hoping your resolution passed, and move forward with this subject matter. All the sheriff has ever done, and I will ask him again to repeat it when we move to the resolution, is let the voters decide. Now we thank you for using the term brave. We don't need to be brave to let democracy work at its best. How does it get any better than the voters deciding? So thank you for that, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick to the comments about the amount of people that we polled. We had a couple options to go 400 people, 500 people. I think the next one was 700 people or so. And I had suggested, well, why don't we poll, higher, 500 people. And the pollster's recommendation was to sit at 400 based on what our population was and what the voting population would be. So that's where we landed on 400, just to pass that little tidbit along. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. I'll just make a comment. I mean, this is a deliberative body. I'll probably say more about this as we get to my resolution. But this poll was not designed to enhance somebody's position or make it easier for somebody else. It was just designed for information so that people can, as Commissioner Hall said, use that information for whatever advantage that they see fit. That's essentially what we're doing, and we're a deliberative body, and the question was going to be on the ballot for November 2019 at that time, and we use that to gauge some information. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, I understand there's a motion on this one, so let's vote.
The motion was to receive and file, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Just very quickly, nothing more than, the poll, it's just so obvious in the poll of where people are looking at roads and infrastructure. And I've brought that out publicly about the possibility of there being a road ballot proposal out there to deal with our road issue. That is a top priority. The governor's come out with her plan. And I think sooner or later, something will be done with the roads, whether it's through Lansing and the governor and the state level, or if they fail,
it'd have to be done, funding would have to be looked at the local level. So from the macro perspective of the views of the folks in the poll and their issues, bottom line is there are needs out there, and there are priorities, and tax dollars are scarce. Okay, that's what I want to say. It's not we have unlimited dollars for everything. It's scarce. So you do a 1 mil proposal for one thing, you know, you're taking that away potentially from other needs or areas as well in the future. So thank you.
You're welcome. Mike, we have the results on that vote? Okay, 12-0, passed. Okay, I'm going to move on now to 7B as a resolution. I guess, first of all, if anybody wants me to just comment on my resolution before you put it to a vote, I'll be more than happy to do that. Okay. You want a motion on the floor before I? Okay, that's fine. I'm looking for a motion for support. Commissioner Hall, I'm looking for, and support it, Commissioner Romano. Okay, let me tell you the reason behind this resolution. As I indicated, and Tony, you're going to want to hear this, this is a deliberative body of 13 people. It's not easy. You know what I'm saying? And everybody here, I want to make note of this for the public and for Tony and everybody here. This body did its due diligence. That's what we do here, and I'm proud of everybody. No matter what perspective they came into this jail project, every single commissioner did their due diligence, and it's kind of the way the collective process of governing works. You got Leon over here who has a certain position, and I respect his position, and you've got Marv over here who has a certain position, and we must respect his position. And everybody did their due diligence to find, you know, the best solution for this project. Now, in the course of doing our due diligence, we came to discover that if we put this on the ballot in November, it's going to cost the county $400,000 to do that, okay? And this is a little bit of a conservative body by nature. And I think what we did find unanimously are two things in this. Number one is this body does not want to spend $400,000 to put this issue on the ballot for November of 2019. But we are, some of us, willing to put it on either for March of 2020, August of 2020, or November of 2020. And that's what the resolution seeks here, is to just simply say we're not going to do it this November. We're going to save $400,000. We can use that for roads. We can use that for Meals on Wheels. We can use that to hire new dispatchers. But we're going to decide, I don't necessarily know if it's going to be today. It could be at full board, or it could be at my August 8th meeting, because we're going to keep this thing rolling. Because the last part of my resolution says we're going to decide, are we going to do it in August, we're going to do it in March, or we're going to do it in November. And I think we need a little bit of time to debate that, or some of us might say we're not going to do it at all. But that's the purpose of this resolution, is just to make clear we're not doing it this November to save $400,000. Tony, do you want to come up and say anything?
I wasn't going to say much, but it's...
Yeah, we got a ton of speakers.
Right here. And I totally agree with this board, you know, waiting till next year, and I have no problem with that. The problem I have is two things with your resolution, right? You all did your due diligence. You heard the chair say that, right? You're all aware of the problems at the jail. You all have come up with some good solutions, right? How about taking a little credit on that first line? Whereas Mark Hackle and Anthony Wickersham want a new jail. We, as Macomb County, need a new jail. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, she said, be brave. Let's do it. Vote on it. Put it out there for next year. You got a couple words: intention and consider. And that scares the crap out of me, because I could tell you, 2005, I guarantee you, if you keep you don't act on it now, it's not going to happen. And they can quote me on that, Jamie.
Let me respond, and maybe I didn't make that clear. We're trying to move things incrementally. When I got a unanimous group saying no way to November of 2019, there's somebody from Leon's position right to Marv's position, we're gonna pass that if we can. Yeah. And it's my intention to keep putting this on my committee. If we don't decide the whole shebang today, it's my intention to keep putting it on my committee every single time until we get it passed or something happens. I know you need a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
I just think
know you
need
that.
Need to call the vote.
I know you need that.
I watched 2 hours of video that Leon sent me from a meeting in May of 2017 when you guys were all on board. Joe, you want to build us a bigger jail. I was really happy with that. You guys know the issues, right?
And again, I'm all about saving money too, 400,000, yeah, let's wait till next year. Why don't we commit to it right now? Why don't you guys step on up? That was 2 hours in May of 2017, we talked about the jail. Came in when we got the contract for the schematic design, Partners and Architect, was another 2-hour presentation with questions. Last time was 3.5 hours, presentation with questions. I mean, we got 8 hours. You can't tell me you got more questions. It's time to step up. This is your job. It's time for you guys, somebody to step up. If you don't want it, step up and say, Wickersham, you got to work with that. I'm the sheriff, that's my building, it's our building, we'll work with it. But if you just keep saying, I'm going to keep working until we get to it, I'll guarantee you, it's never going to happen. And that's all I want to say.
And let me just say, the intention of my motion or the resolution, the language was really more to just make clear we're not going to do it this November. I put in the other stuff so people know that if we're not going to do it this November, we're going to either pick March, August, or November of 2020. And if we want to put that to vote today, after my resolution that presumably passes, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. Speaker.
Point of order,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. I did want to jump in. We can't make that recommendation until we pass your resolution.
That's correct.
We can't even put an amendment on it until the resolution passes.
That's correct. And my intentions were to maybe put it to full board. If my resolution passes, we can certainly put it on the agenda for full board next week. And that's the intent here.
You got, you can't do that.
Hold on, I'm going to have some order. Okay, you'll wait? Right, all right. If we're going to do order, we're going to start with Commissioner Carabelli. Go ahead.
Well, I am. I just didn't believe he gave it up. But anyways. Sheriff, if you can stay up here for a minute, please. The floor. First of all, to the motion maker. As written, I can't support this. Number one, we talked about saving $400,000, and if I'm not mistaken, if you hold this in March, it's going to cost the county money as well. So is the motion maker willing to remove March out of his resolution?
You talking about the resolution maker?
Yes, I'm sorry. Whoever made the motion would make the change, so.
Commissioner Hall made the motion and Commissioner Romano supported.
Because if we're saying, and I'm just asking, if we're saying that we didn't want to do it now, you can't do it in March, so I don't understand. So.
Can I have the floor back real quick?
No, you cannot. I'm asking the motion maker.
In reading the resolution, that's why I like Phil here. In reading the resolution, I thought the intent was to remove it from the March election. November, I'm sorry. But if that satisfies the board, I'd be more than happy to remove March 2020 as part of my motion as well and go right to August 2020, but I didn't think we could until the resolution was passed.
We didn't pass the resolution, so we can make amendments as we're going through this, all the way through until it's voted on, unless somebody's asking for it to be voted up, just straight up or down. Because if it's in the motion it's in right now, I'm not supporting March. And if we're going to put something in here, I personally, one commissioner, and if we're serious about doing it, everybody knows we got a problem at the jail. If you don't think we have a problem at the jail, I can ask a poll. Raise your hand. Okay, so we're all in agreement. So with that said, there's timelines. I'm not kicking the can down the road without having a better idea of, the sheriff said it quite eloquently, and I can't find all the words when they're intending and I don't know, whatever. Consider. Here's the deal. If you're wanting to put dates and times that we have to have a price from the sheriff, if somebody has a concern on the price of the jail and you want to say by this date and time, the board has to make a decision, is this the number that you're going through to the people? Then I think that needs to be looked at. If we want to get the language drafted for the actual, how you say, the ballot language, then lock it down. Because right now, we're just kind of kicking it down the road over and over. I'm only one commissioner. No one has to agree with me. But this to me is just basically we're tabling it in fancy language. And I'm sorry, I don't want to spend the $400,000. I don't want to spend $475. But the reality is, a couple commissioners, and I kept my mouth quiet when everybody talked. Marv, you're right, we need a new jail. You're spot on, we need a new jail. When you said you talked to people out on the street, and as soon as you ask somebody, no one wants to spend any money for anything. But now the tool from the poll, I think gives you the direction of where you need to go and where you need to work. Okay, that's just my opinion.
When you look at it, I was happy with the poll.
No, I'm just saying, it gives you, and you know what? I talk to people, and I ask them, heck no, but do you understand that we're responsible by law to have a jail? Do you understand we have to have something? No. We need to get there. I told you, and Commissioner Kleinfeld had to repeat my wording and it got quoted in the paper, so I'm not saying it again. I think I'd like to look and see if we can tone it down a little bit. That's just me, and I've told you that personally. At the end of the day, I don't want to kick it down the road. A decision has to be made, the people don't know about it, and it's going to be upon all of us, like he said. We're all responsible for it. This is our fiduciary responsibility to make sure that he has the tools to do his job. And right now, when's the last time somebody's been in the jail, or who hasn't been on a tour of the jail? Well,
I bet you some people haven't even toured each other.
I don't know, but I can't vote in this current form. If you're willing to pick a date, and again, I'm not here to play politics. Do we want it August, November? I don't know what's better or worse. I don't know the answer to any of this, but the reality is, pick one. Pick a date for the language. Pick a date for the actual number. And then we set timelines that we have to hold ourselves accountable, and the sheriff and everybody else involved. Here's the dates and times we want to do it. Do we have retiring bonds that maybe we can only go out for $300 million and we got 75 that we can do internally without having to buy? I don't know the answers to this, but these are things that we can talk about as we pick a date and we lock things up. Thank you, that's all I had to say.
Just a point of information, the agenda items are, if this resolution passes, the next item is to whether or not you approve the sheriff's plan, and then the item after that is whether or not we put it on in November, which my resolution will effectively not, assuming it passes, we will not put it on the November ballot. We can still decide a date in 2020 for an election, and we can still, in the next agenda item, approve the plan. We can do that all today. It's just the point of this resolution is simply to make sure everybody understands we're not spending $400,000 for an election this November. Even the sheriff agrees with that. So you can amend it any way you want.
Point of order, your resolution postpones. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners hereby postpones the approval of the project. It's in your resolution that we are postponing it. So there's a couple of words in here that do need clarification, but I gotta wait my turn, so.
And that's fine. I'm amenable. It's my resolution, but it's a motion that anybody can amend. I have no objections to it. If we want to make a decision today, that's fine. The only thing I want to make sure, I think we all agree on, as you can see, Sheriff, there's 13 people that even argue about a resolution. It's okay. I think we all agree we don't want it on for November. That's all my intent is with this resolution. Nothing more and nothing less.
Mr. Chairman, and I believe the sheriff did, he's not arguing.
That's right.
Is that correct?
I'm correct. Let's pick a date. Let's do August.
So he's already agreed that he's okay with
motion. We make a motion, put it on August.
And the
We got a
thing
whole
is-
year to go
Right.
out and educate our citizens.
And the thing is, if you want to debate that now, my intention was if we pass this, we can debate it at full board, gives people time to think if they want. Now, he doesn't want March, that's fine. If you want to do August or November, we can do it today. I just was giving it, if the resolution passes, we can address the date, either March, August, or November next week. Okay, no March. I mean, these are things I would have liked to have debated next week, just to understand today, we're not going to do it in November. Then move on to the next item.
Yeah, point of order, your motion speaks for itself. It's on the floor. And vote on the motion. Or make it, or
Thank
make
you,
it.
Don. You understand where I'm coming from, 100%. Go ahead, Commissioner Dujay.
Thank you. Sheriff, what do you want, August or November next year?
Let's do August.
Okay. Is the motion maker amenable to change that last line to election of August 2020? And it's changed last paragraph to let it be resolved. Forget the intention, consider to approve the project and adopt the resolution to authorize the ballot proposal.
So we should do these in amendments instead of keep asking the motion maker. So also with Carabelli's, these should be amendments so that it's cleaner for when they rewrite it.
Fine.
Either that, or like I say, I'm trying to make it, because again, you can see there's 13 different opinions. There's going to be people who say November. I don't want to get into the debate about it. I just want to make sure it's not November of 2019. I can withdraw my resolution, and we can just put it to a vote on whether or not we're going to do it for November 2019, and we can address.
What's the amount? We don't even know. We're going to set a date, there's a point in the future, for something we don't even know what that is or what it's going to say.
Exactly.
Seems kind of reckless in my mind.
The resolution is very simple, and like I indicated to the sheriff.
Keep it clean, I'm just talking about amendments.
That's right. And again, if we pass the resolution next board meeting, next week, Thursday, full board, we can go ahead and decide if we're going to do it March, August, or in November of 2020. We still have an item coming up after this resolution about whether or not we approve his plan. So let's keep it clean, and just as Commissioner Brown said, we have a resolution on the table. It speaks for itself. It says no to November of 2019. Everybody in this room agrees with that. And it says we will move forward and consider March, August, or November, and we'll consider the plan. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Lucido?
First question is, you're saying March, there's a cost associated with
It's
the
my
election?
understanding. I don't have the numbers, but that's my understanding.
But August and November, there's no cost?
That is correct.
Okay. Second, if we vote yes on this resolution, do we still have the opportunity to, I guess, debate what it is specifically we're voting for, like the numbers, the total numbers for the plan for the jail and all that?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, and has this, I guess it's the next thing coming up, but the governor's study, has that been taken into consideration?
Not for this resolution. The only thing that was taken into consideration for this resolution was $400,000 for a November election in 2019.
Okay, I just think that we need to take a look at that when we are proposing what the millage will be and everything. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. I'll wait for the next item. Thank you.
Commissioner Hall.
Well, I'm going to agree with Commissioner Carabelli. Again, I thought the process we were using, and I thank you for drafting the resolution, was to eliminate the November 2019 election, saving the $400,000. The intent, my intent as the mover, was to use the next agenda item to propose we put it on the August 2020 ballot and vote on it at that time. I don't want to take it to another board meeting. I don't want to have another discussion of whether or not the direction where to go. We're providing the sheriff, gives him an opportunity to go out and sell his program. So, Commissioner, I agree with you. But my intent on accepting this resolution was to eliminate the November 5th, 2019, saving the $400,000, and to follow it. And if it's an addendum that needs to be made to this resolution, instead of doing it on the next agenda item, I'm more than happy to do that as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I assume the motion as it stands before us right now is the motion that was written, or has it been amended at this moment?
Hasn't been amended. There wasn't support.
So it's the motion that's before us right now. Okay, well, number one, I agree with the people who have spoken that I don't think there's a commissioner here who doesn't think we need to address the jail issue. I think everybody here agrees with that. I think the sheriff is correct. And I appreciate the maker of the motion with the intent that we don't want to cost the county $400,000 and put this on the November 19 election. So I appreciate that intent as well. However, I will be voting no on the resolution because I think we have to, I also agree with some of the other commissioners, Commissioner Hall and others, that say we should make decisions. And I think the decision we should make is to decide no. That we should say no to the $375 million jail proposal. It's too expensive. We have been, the sheriff mentioned, meetings we've had in the past where proposals were made 2 years ago that would cost half this amount. We have...
Hey, Leanne, I don't mean to cut you off, okay? The next item is about the plan.
Okay.
You know? I mean, this is,
But I'm
yeah.
explaining why I'm voting no on the resolution.
That's fine. I understand.
Which is because I believe the plan is unaffordable, and I think that it's not fair to anybody involved to be brave when we can't, we need to be realistic.
Leon, hold on. I don't mean to cut, Leon, you're going to have every opportunity, I promise you, on the next item to talk about that. This is simply a resolution, which I think you've already indicated that you agree, you might agree not even to put it on the ballot, and I respect that, but we're agreeing, the resolution is strictly to just take it out of November 2019.
Well, it's more than that. There's been discussion made about putting something on the ballot in 2020, and it's been made relating to this motion.
Well,
So
what's
if
gonna
people are
happen is-
talking about
well-
2020 and putting something on the ballot, I think it needs to be addressed.
Well, here, let's just run through the math. This resolution passes. We know it's not in November of 2019. Now, we have to decide, is it going to be March, is it going to be August, or is it going to be November? Or in your case, is it even going to be at all? That's the debate we should have next, not on this resolution. This resolution is just to take it out of November.
Does this motion suggest that we put it on another ballot?
It does not. It says we will consider. That's what he didn't like, but
And
I did that.
don't think that's fair to the sheriff. I think we should not consider it. So I think we should vote no on the motion to be fair to the sheriff, so we don't say that we're going to consider something. I think we should, the response is we should not consider it. We want to get a plan that the county can afford.
Yeah, it says we'll consider. We'll consider it. We're going to consider it. Here's the thing. It's going to go to vote. It's either going to go
Well, if we
March.
vote no on this, then we don't necessarily consider it, right?
No, you still have the board. You have the next item is the plan, and the item after that is November. Look at the agenda.
Okay, I'm looking at the agenda. I think we should vote no on the resolution. I think we should vote no on the following items so that we can move forward on a realistic jail proposal.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And could I defend myself?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because Commissioner Drulette, you said that I said $180 million. You reported it to Jamie Cook and the Macomb Daily along with Bob Smith. I watched 2 hours. I never sat up here and said $180 million for a jail, right? We did the presentation, 2.5 hours. Everybody look on up here. Yeah, Dominic Abbott did a presentation, showed what could be done. You were in that meeting. You were in that meeting. Your staff was in that meeting. Leon, you said, Dominic Abbott said he could build this jail for $180 million. We could put a shovel in there next spring. Dominic Abbott said he didn't say that, said it cost you more to build that jail. You probably should build a new one. So let's just stick to the facts. I appreciate you saying you don't want a new jail. That's all I asked for. Don't cloud the issue. Don't come up with stories, lies.
Whoa. First off, I never said I don't want a new jail.
Let's keep a little decorum.
Sheriff, I never said I don't want a new jail. I said I don't want to pay $375 million. I don't believe we can afford that. Okay. I want a solution that's affordable, financially affordable to the county. So I appreciate that. And there's going to have to be, from my perspective, we need a solution that the county and the taxpayers can afford. I don't think that's it.
That's the next agenda item, Leon. I don't mean to cut you off, and I understand where you're going to be coming from.
Well, I had stopped,
Right.
but...
I understand. This is a resolution. It's a resolution to decide if you're going to take it off of November's ballot. That's it. Let's keep it simple. We got a bigger fish to fry next.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. That's the issue. That's not what this resolution says. Every point of order I've had is because I'm worried about the meaning of this, because this resolution says we hereby postpone the approval of the project. Everybody keeps saying that's the next agenda item. No, it's not. Not if we vote for this resolution, number one. Number two, it says it's the intention to consider. The first time you said it to Sheriff, you said, right, we're saying we're going to put it on one of those three. This last time you just said, that's right, it's our intent to consider. We're not saying we're going to put it on one. So I think there's confusion up here as to, you keep saying this is just to take it off in November. We can do that without the resolution.
And that's fine. We can withdraw the resolution and put it to a vote. I don't care.
My point is, that's not what this says. So when he said he wanted March off, and then he said he wanted to change the last line, all I'm saying is if any of that takes place, it has to take place with an amendment to keep the resolution clean in its writing. Otherwise, the staff doesn't even know what to put in. So the reason the reason it isn't the next agenda item is because if this resolution passes, we're postponing approval of the project, which is the next agenda item.
Well, you can postpone it to the next item. That's what I'm trying. Listen, all we're trying to do is take.
Why are you debating with every commissioner, Chair? I'm sorry, but you
you're
are.
right.
I know you're an attorney, but why are you debating with every commissioner? You're here to chair. Let them speak, and we'll go on to the next person.
Fair enough.
Okay, so if we did remove the word consider, then it would be placed on one of those three. We just wouldn't be making a decision today. If we don't remove the word consider, we're going to debate in the future whether or not to put it on. So I was going to approve this because I don't think there's the votes today to do it. But I'd like to either, if I support this, to give those commissioners time that aren't ready to make a decision, then I hope we get to when that time is. I can give that, if that's what it's going to take to get votes to resolve this, I'm going to support this resolution, understanding that this resolution doesn't promise anything. But that's only because I think commissioners aren't ready to make a decision. So, thank you.
Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a no on this resolution because I don't even think this resolution is necessary. I think everything you have listed here, intention, consider in the future, we can do that without this. So I will be voting no based on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, Commissioner Romano?
Thank you, Chair. You know, I'm looking at the resolution, and I think it could probably stop at, after you gave the first whereas, and the last whereas was, Macomb County Clerk estimates placing a countywide proposal on the November 2019 ballot will cost approximately $400,000. Okay, so we're taking that off. We're not going to do that. And I agree with Commissioner Hall. We're kicking the can. Let's vote on this. We want it for our August of 2020. Let's stop right there with that resolution and put that amendment in that Commissioner Hall suggested, and let's vote on this. We're going to keep passing a buck down the line. How long are we going to keep this up? Thank you.
Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Instead of my original motion, I will retract on adopting the resolution. I would like to amend your resolution to indicate that the Board of Commissioners approval of the project, adoption of a resolution to authorize a ballot proposal levying a millage to finance the project for the election on August 2020 as an amendment to your resolution.
I'll support that as the supporter of the first
No,
resolution.
see, he's getting upset. There's got to be a motion and an amendment to the motion. Let's not make an amendment to a motion that doesn't exist. Please listen to keep your motion and then make an amendment.
That's what he did.
So, excuse me, Chair, so are we to vote yes on this resolution, and then the amendment comes second?
No, the amendment always
The amendment comes first.
So then when you vote on the motion, it's incorporated
Into the amendment, yes.
So there is a motion for the amendment by Commissioner Hall. You heard his language.
Could I ask for clarify it?
I need a second.
I support it.
No, Romano supported. I was getting to that, and then we want a clarification for Commissioner Drollet. Go ahead. Harold, go ahead and clarify.
I'm listening.
No, he wants you to
I'm
clarify.
asking you for clarification so I know exactly what the amendment.
I want to, the last statement, be it further resolved that his intention, scratch intention out, let it be resolved the Board of Commissioners approval of the project, adoption of a resolution to authorize a ballot proposal levying a millage to finance the project for the election scratch of either March 20 to add August 2020 and scratch or November 2020. So it's adopting, eliminating the November 5th, 2019, saving the $400,000, and adding the August 2020 ballot levying millage proposal. So that's the motion.
That's what we're voting on.
Okay,
That's
so
what we're
that's the
voting.
motion, right. There was a motion and there was second and support, so let's put that to a vote.
To speak on the,
Sure.
if I could,
You
please.
could, of course.
Thank you. So what this would do would affirmatively place an issue on the August 2020 ballot involving the jail, but we don't know how much it would cost, and we don't know what the issue is or what the millage rate would be, what the language would be. Is that correct?
That is correct. It would put the issue on the ballot for August of 2020.
So what if there are proposals that are developed in the jail that don't require a millage? So we'd have something on the ballot with no millage?
Who are you asking?
I guess I'm asking the maker of the motion.
Well, you could probably ask the sheriff, as he's indicated he has spent over 8 to 10 hours explaining the need and the amount of cost, and I don't know what else he could tell us. My contention is let the voters decide.
But what are we letting them decide?
Excuse me, I'm answering your question. What are they going to decide?
Yeah.
They're going to decide it gives them the opportunity to put the language together for the ballot proposal. It gives them the opportunity to sell the proposal, and it gives him a fair chance to be able to deal in court again when somebody asks him, what have you done from the last incident to this incident? We can sit here, I don't think
Thank you for
anybody
the
in-
explanation.
I'm still answering your question.
No, you've answered it.
You got it?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Harold. I do
Thank you.
appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
So we would be voting to put something on the ballot. We'd be voting to put something on the ballot for a jail, for a project that we haven't approved the amount of, or the cost of, or the ballot proposal for, and essentially we're shutting, and we don't even know what the millage rate would be, or any of those other things. We're just voting to put something on the ballot in 2020 that has the word jail near it, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Majed.
Thank you. I think what Leon's getting at, and with respect to the sheriff, this is just where I'm coming from. 375 is a lot of money, and you add the interest. That is, as you mentioned, it's a lot of money, and people don't like necessarily to pay for jails. And I think what Leon's coming from is past studies that we've had through the jail that call for renovations in smaller increments. And I've talked with Leon and some others about that, and maybe that can be looked at, that we can get something done with smaller increments without raising taxes. That's where Leon was coming from, in defense of him. But for me personally, I'm not going to vote for this proposal to place it on August. Harold, you mentioned that perfectly. Democracy works best, and I agree with that, but I think democracy works better when more people vote on it. And in November 2020, you're going to have 303, approximately, 303,000 more voters in November 2020 versus the primary in August. Marv mentioned that too, and the poll results were 0.6%. The polls were a low turnout, or a low proposal. So isn't the more the merrier when it comes to democracy in ballot tax proposals? Every tax proposal that's come up to this board in my service here at Board of Commissioners, SMART, the DIA, the veterans, missing someone else, the zoo, SMART, it's all been in the primary. What is wrong with the general election? I mean, that is democracy working better. So I'm just pleading my case to you, and I can't vote for it to be placed on the August primary ballot. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe I understand the amendment, and I don't mean to cloud this, but this is where we want to go. But and maybe I wait to bring this up once the amendment's passed, but I'd like a time frame of ballot language. I'd like a time frame of finance. It was brought up, the actual millage rate, the actual cost. If we're locking ourselves into something, and I truly appreciate the resolution of what you want to accomplish, but we're saying we're doing something in 20, so Commissioner Drolet, you'd say, okay, what are we doing? Well, we're really still not doing anything because we're only approving that we're going to tell ourselves to put it on the ballot. I'd like to lock us down in that resolution. Here's a date and time for dollars and cents. Here's a date and time for if it goes in the ballot or if we finance it ourselves. Here's a date and time that this has to be completed, so that we govern ourselves appropriately going through, not waiting to a month before the deadline to turn it in and we finally have a meeting and the can gets kicked down the road again. So this is great intent, and I am agreeing with it so far, the changes, but I'd like to see some more changes to lock us in to doing something. And if I can ask the sheriff up here, please, well, we can do anything now. If we're passing a resolution to do something in 2020 to hold ourselves accountable, we should be holding ourselves, we should hold ourselves accountable for the dollars and cents, hold ourselves accountable for ballot language approval, and have an actual step if we're going to say we're going to do this. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
I would agree.
But, so, you know, I'll support this amendment, but I'd like to see more amendments to lock us in to making a decision. Up or down, I don't care how anybody votes, but we got to make a decision. And this doesn't lock us too hard into a whole lot, in my opinion. Thank you.
Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Thank you. Okay, so we've got a motion and an amendment, right? Because the motion hasn't been rescinded, just making sure on that.
Right, the amendment's first.
Okay, so this does not list the ballot proposal amount and all of that. So if we approve this, why don't we look like maybe to full board to actually approve the ballot proposal language, which ties everything in, is what I'm thinking is the answer to that. We're saying we're going to do something here, and then we have an obligation to follow through with the actual wording and the actual numbers on things.
Okay. My turn. You know, again, this was just to take it off of November 2019. I anticipated, right, I anticipated everybody would have their opinions. That's what we've been dealing with for the last month while we've been doing our due diligence. Now we're adding in different amendments and stuff like that. I agree in some sense, Leon's saying we're putting it on the ballot, but we don't have any idea what the language is. We don't have any idea what the plan is. We haven't even approved the plan. The plan is the next item. All I want to do is, which we all want to do, this reminds me of a little bit of like of an Italian wedding party. We just want to take it off of November's ballot. That's all this resolution said. That's it.
Well,
now you can vote on the amendment. You can vote on the amendment or not.
Okay, in that case, since we didn't vote to put it on in November, then we don't need to vote on a resolution not to do it in November.
That's fine too. I mean, here's the thing. If you look at the agenda, it's very specific. We had to decide if we're going to put it on November's ballot. If this resolution passes, then we don't put it on the ballot for November. The next thing is, do we approve the plan? That's the next item we have. There's going to be a lot of discussion, I'm sure, on that. Okay? If the plan is approved, then we just have to figure out which month it's going to be. If the plan isn't approved, then I guess we don't have anything on the ballot, right? So this has become more complicated than it really should have. And I don't know if it's because it came in the form of a resolution. To be honest with you, I put it in the form of a resolution so it wouldn't complicate people. Because lately we've been having these things come up where everybody gets confused and we have chaos. Here I put it in a very clear resolution saying we are going to not do it in November of 2019. Jameson, you're here. We're going to do it unanimously because we're going to save $400,000. That's what this commission determined, and the sheriff agrees with that. The next thing is whether or not we approve the sheriff's plan. And the next thing after that is if that plan is approved, we're going to figure out what month we're going to put it on the ballot. See, we got November, we got August. Some people say March maybe. I don't know. But let's not throw it all into one resolution that's simply trying to say no to November. Well, we can vote down the amendment and go back to the original resolution and proceed accordingly. Yes.
If you would have stopped exactly where you have said, and forgot the rest of the gobbledygook after whereas, and now therefore, we didn't need all that. All you wanted to do is remove it. You should have just said, we're removing it from the November 400, we're saving $400,000 and removing it from the November. That's what I had to say. Why did you have the rest of this stuff in there? Because of the fact that everybody...
He's going to say, are we kicking it down the can? Because we're taking it off in November. Are we kicking it down the can? The reason why I said we're going to intend to go forward is so everybody knows that we're doing that. Again, the resolution was designed to keep people from being confused. Maybe it was written by an attorney. That's the problem. That's all this resolution is designed for. If you all agree, forget this amendment for now because that's the next vote, and I'm going to tell you I'm going to vote down the amendment because there's debate about whether or not it's going to be August or November. If you agree that this thing should not be on for November, then pass my resolution. Let's go on to the next item and debate about what you think the intricacies of the plan are, if you think you've got a better plan or whatever, and then we're done for today. If the plan passes, then we can come back next week and figure out if we're going to do August or November. That's just that simple. Do you want to withdraw your amended motion?
Well, I have one question. I hear your plan. What's the assurance that it's going to be on the agenda to move to, because once we vote down the resolution, we don't need to hear the sheriff's plan, I don't think. We don't need to hear what we're looking for on the authorization of the millage unless you are assuring us this is going to be on the next agenda for a vote, and eliminating confusion has not happened here, I guarantee you that.
I get that. And that's the first thing the sheriff said. He was confused with what does intent mean and all that stuff.
What?
The next agenda item on this committee today is whether or not you approve the plan. So let's get right to that after this resolution.
So
right?
I will withdraw the amendment.
I will withdraw my support.
Okay.
So let's get back to the original motion of adopting this resolution, but you can bet the confusion you're looking to clarify is coming right back on the next agenda item, is my guess.
Okay.
So I withdraw.
Okay. All right, so, yes, resolution as written. Okay, the motion passes 7-5, so it will not be on the November ballot for 2019. I feel this board has saved $400,000 for the taxpayers. So, let's move on now to the next item, which is item B, item C, the plan for the new county jail. Do we really need to have the sheriff come up and talk?
Make a motion that we approve.
Is there support? Supported by Sauger. Discussion. Commissioner Gillette.
I'll be very brief because we all beat this to death. Just quite simply, we all know something needs to be done, but the plan that was put forward is too expensive. The county can't afford it. We should be realistic, and being realistic by voting this down and asking for a plan that the county can afford is what we should honestly and realistically do. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That was brief. Commissioner Lucido.
I guess the discussions that have taken place over the last month have actually created a lot of confusion. I know Sheriff Wickersham said, there was no number put out in 2017, but other people have said otherwise. And there's a big difference between the 2017 number and the number we're looking at today. So I guess it's hard to approve the dollar amount because if we have the time a year before it goes up, that may be one thing that we're looking at. And I don't know what the specifics are.
Right, so for full disclosure, in May of 2017, if you guys would have all watched the 2 hours of video that I got sent to about what I said and who came up here, we talked about the study, we talked about the issues. Dominic Abbott and Ron Sine came up here, did a nice little PowerPoint about a possibility of doing this in sections. Nowhere in that 2-hour presentation was there a dollar amount. This was just the analysis.
I thought there...
Who?
AEV, Clark, DLZ, Lakeland.
May of 2017. That, what he is looking at, is when they came in front of the selection committee for the schematic design.
Were they in front of us?
They were in front of, we had a select group. Commissioner Carabelli was on there. Commissioner Smith was on the selection. Barb McCaskey, my team. Finance was involved. And that's what Dominic Abbott's team. And again, when we started this, It was like, you look at our building, again, you've heard it several times, we spent over $1 million what?
Yeah.
During these studies. We spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Brought in experts. And take a look at the facility, take a look at what we're doing, how can we do it better? And this is what they said. Now, and I understand that. And I know a lot of you have really become experts. So, and no joking, you've been experts. So, again, this is your job, and I look forward to it, but whatever if it doesn't happen, then I look forward to your expert solutions. I'm the sheriff, I run the jail, I'll be running the building, and I'll be looking forward to your solution on what you're going to do.
Okay.
So, the $180 million, that might have been in their presentation, but it never came out here. When we did the schematic design, we looked at somewhere between $175 million to $190 million was the original project cost. Yes, that is true. During the project, the issues came up. I went and met with all of you commissioners in the back room and gave you a little update, with the exception of the Commissioner Kleinfeld, because she didn't want to be part of that, and I understand that. And I told you, look, this is the direction we're going. Things are happening there. The place is falling apart. Ceiling tiles are falling, even though it's one at this time, Commissioner Drulette. You can't have another one. We might kill somebody. We got to take this stuff serious, and that's what I'm here for. So, yes, and then I did come back. Remember, I came back. I said, we need more money, because this is going to be a new jail. The best solution is a new jail. You guys gave me the money to go forward with the schematic design, because it increased. So now we come back. This is the solution. These are the experts. I could have stand up here and said, yeah, give me a new jail. No. We brought in experts. We paid a lot of money for a solution. This is the solution. So, I mean, that's what's before you right now. If you don't like the solution, vote it down.
Okay.
Me and my staff, we're going to continue to do what we're doing, and we'll do it the best we can in that facility.
Well, I think it's in the next year, if it goes on the ballot, you're going to have a big job in front of you explaining, because I know I've had so many people emailing and calling saying, that cost is just way too high, just constituents. And
I'm an elected official, too.
I know.
I go out and see my constituents, too, and when I
I
sit
know.
down and talk to them,
Right.
look who's here. Look what I could do.
I know.
You got to educate people.
That's what is
Do you educate?
going to be very
Will
important.
you guys educate? Will you? If you put that out there.
Right.
Will you tell them the problems that are out there? And in one way or the other, yay or nay. So, that's
Okay.
it.
I'm just letting you know.
If it doesn't, then, hey, I'm okay. We'll come back for whatever solution you guys want.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Carabelli.
Hold on, Sheriff, if you don't mind, sir.
I think I'm adding 3 more hours to my, I am the most elected, the only elected official that comes in front of this board usually, and how much time I spend in front of you guys. Thank you, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
And at the end of the day,
Not always.
at the end of the day, I appreciate the effort that you put into it. I appreciate the process, and I've seen the tens of millions of dollars we're Band-Aiding continually over and over and over. I asked a couple questions the last time the presentation was here, and one of them was the percentages, because my math didn't add up to the architect's percentages, and I didn't understand it, and no one ever got back to me on that. So before I vote in affirmative on something like this, I still need to see those and how those numbers were arrived. So I'll stop by your office or the architect's office, wherever it may be, but before I vote on this plan, though I'm not disagreeing with it, I don't understand the percentages from when I first looked at it I was coming up with, I think I had like 13%, then another 4%, and just.
Are you talking about the contingency?
Yes, but and they were breaking it in different sections, and I thought it was going to be like a 6% contingency in the beginning. Now it was like, I'll go back and look, but.
I thought it was like 13% contingency was in there for whatever reason.
Right, and they never got back to tell us what the breakdown was, so that's something I do still need.
Okay, we'll get that to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, in all fair disclosure, I just told my staff to stay back at the office
and
and do work and not come here, because I saw what direction this was going in, and I'll be honest, that it wasn't, it was all going to be postponed when I read the resolution and everything, so I'm here.
Okay.
But we'll get you that.
And I appreciate, well, not only that, and we talked before, you know, is there any room for any VE on this? And you said, this is what I'm presenting. And I'm not, listen, I'm not the expert. I'm looking at the dollars and cents. I'm looking at it, do we need to only go out for $300,000 because we have retiring bonds and we can pay for it a different way? I'm just looking at all the options on this. This is what you're presenting, this is what you've hired staff, this is what you had professionals for, this is what they put together and came forward with it. I understand that, but my question for you, is there any room for them in, is this the best we can do for the dollars and cents?
My position would be yes, because I came back. I mean, I can't, how much more can I go and keep beating them up? This, with what's going on, where we're going into the future, this is the best solution. Now, if you guys think there's a better solution out there,
it's not the better solution, it's to do what you need to have done.
Right now, I have to sit here and I have to say, yes, this is the best solution that we can come up with. Now, can everybody go back and go ahead and get another crew together and spend another $1 million? Find out if there's a better plan.
That's not the direction I'm going, though. I'm going to a direction, we're kicking it down the road to 2020 already. So in 2020, the cost of construction, cost of labor, everything's not going down, it's going what?
It's going to go up. Yep.
So it's not going to be $375 million. So the reality is, I'm trying to be a realist with you. And the realist thing is this really as tight as we can get it? Because we know costs are escalating. I'm not going to lock into a dollar figure because you don't know what the estimate's going to be coming up in 2020.
You know, before I even came and gave you the presentation, we lopped off the top floor. We eliminate some cells. We cut down the amount of beds that were going to be there. You know, so we really looked at where we can go. You want it? We could take it back. I could bring her down to 1,000 inmates, but then we're going to be releasing people. I don't know where else to cut. I'm not a construction guy.
Listen, and that's what I wanted to hear from you, that you did do your due diligence, you did lop off the floor. I didn't hear about this before.
I watched the video, 3.5 hours in there. We brought the cost down.
All right, well, I probably got lost somewhere in there.
I know. It's still.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Commissioner Brown.
Is this new jail truly direct supervision? It seems like they told us that direct supervision was the latest thing to do, so you have direct supervision, one deputy looking over the pod and seeing inside the cells if anyone's in there, but now I understand we got walls with still little slits in the jail. I mean, is it really direct supervision, or do you guys, is it?
It is 100% direct supervision. It's 100%.
Well, we were told at some point that they were able to see into the cells and they were going to stand.
The only time that you're not going to be able to see them is if they go into their room, but you're going to be right there. If that door was a little room, a cell, and the commissioner went to use the bathroom, and it's not a little slit, there's a slit in there, I'm going to be right there. I'm going to see what's going on. If I hear something, I walk right there. I'm not 100 yards away getting through two doors that got to slam. It's direct supervision.
What about space? I mean, in terms of not space, personnel costs require more personnel to staff the same size jail.
In the explanation that I gave to everybody several times, is, yes, there's an increase in staff cost because we're not properly staffed now. And that I would ask if this...
So we're trying to play catch-up in the 80s?
We're playing, yeah. If this gets shot down, can you give me 40 more corrections deputies to help me properly supervise the inmates in there? That may be coming.
Okay.
Look, I'm not just coming in front of you with a pie in the sky that, and I told you, there's a good chance I won't even be around if this thing gets opened up. But this is the right thing to do.
Let's not hope not. Hope you're here.
Well, so...
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Sauger, then Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Okay, first of all, I made this statement quite a while ago, and I will reiterate it again. The 13 members of this Board of Commissioners are going to help sell or defeat the jail by their comments to the public and what they're going to do. So that's coming. I also kept saying, like questions were just asked by the Commissioner, please, everybody make a tour of that jail. Go with the sheriff or someone else, and all your questions would be answered. Most of them would be, what about? See there for yourself. But I don't think enough commissioners have gone over there to tour the jail.
I think all of you. I don't want to cut you off, but the invitation is, why don't you guys?
I know it's open.
Sometime tomorrow between 8 a.m. and let's say 10 p.m. Why don't you come on over and
I'll have you work the D blocks tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right? Okay? Come on.
But the
It'll be
biggest
98.
thing,
Yep.
but the
Okay, go
biggest
ahead,
thing
I'm
I can say is, what is the alternative to all these negative things about building a new jail? What is the alternative? I haven't heard one. There is none. It's got to be done. I worked in there, I said that before, and I know it's got to be replaced, and I will be replaced someday. But please use your head, and those prisoners over there, there's going to be more next year. There's going to be more the year after that. You can't use this jail, start cutting back because of the condition, because you're going to put them back out on the street. And you put them back on the street, oh my God, what do we do that for? You ain't got no place to keep them. But please, guys, use your head, think twice about this. We got to have a new jail somehow, and we'll get it built somehow. I hope we do. Thank you.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Gillette said that we can't afford it, and that's correct, we can't afford it. That's why we're looking at putting it on the ballot. He has floated some proposals. In my opinion, I've looked at, you know, our down the road. Oh, well, 10 years down the road, we're only going to be spending $1 million on capital outlay. I'm not dumb. I know that that's going to be back up to $9 million 10 years down the road. And I am very concerned about putting the county in a precarious financial position by trying to pay for this ourselves. And that wouldn't be fair to future commissioners. We're not raising taxes. We're asking the voters to make a decision. And I'm going to support that. I support the plan. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Sheriff, I got one question and then I'll make a comment. In all my due diligence, I forgot to ask this, and you can see I've been busy the last month. The price of the $375 million proposed price, does that include the tear down of the original jail?
371, yes. And all of that was,
gotcha,
the demolition.
All right, let me just make this comment. Look at where we've come. And again, I don't want to confuse anybody. It seems like my resolution last time confused everybody. It was meant to just keep things moving. Here's the thing. The sheriff is right. He has come here with 5 different plans. Remember we sat here? We saw 5 different plans. There was one that even kind of intrigued me. It was going to be over where the Comfort Inn is, and we were going to have a tunnel to bring the prisoners over here to the court. I mean, that kind of stuff as a practicing attorney is kind of neat because I don't have to drive over to the jail to see my client. I can go through a tunnel and see him from the court. You know what I mean? So he has done his due diligence. Okay? He has done his due diligence in coming forward with 5 different plans and telling us, this is my best plan. This is what the experts have said. Again, we're not experts in jail construction. I do agree with Leon. We're experts in, I guess, sort of budget or finance somewhat. But the bottom line is we are not experts in jail construction. We've paid people to do that. The sheriff has done his due diligence and presented 5 options and said, this plan, the plan that's before us, item number 7C, is my best plan. It saves us money. It's the most efficient. In his opinion, it's the most cost-effective from what the expert have said, okay? So the bottom line is this. We can all have different ideas of a better jail. We can all have different ways of doing it incrementally or whatever. All the sheriff is asking is, this is my best plan, and give me a chance to put it on the ballot for the people to either agree with him or disagree with him. That's all this is. If you approve this plan, you're giving him the option, which is the next step, to put it on the ballot either in March, I know you don't like that, or August, or November of next year. That's all this is. It's an attempt to say, Sheriff, you've done your due diligence, the plan looks good to us, the next step is to put it on the ballot. Any other speakers? All right, there's a motion on the table. Let's do this vote. Okay, the motion passes 10-2 with Commissioner Kraft and Gillette turning it down. And the plan is approved, Sheriff. Congratulations. I know it was a long process getting the plan approved. So the next item is to authorize the millage, and to ultimately, when you authorize a millage in this case, is to put it on the ballot. Now look, We've had some debate about March, August, November. Okay? If you folks want, we can postpone this till next week. That was kind of my original intention. So we can work on ballot language. We can work on what day we want to do it next year. Or if you want, we can do it today. That was my intent in saying we'll consider. Okay? Go ahead, Commissioner Caravelli.
Mr. Chairman, I guess my thing is that we are asking to vote on a language. We approved a plan, but at the end of the day, that plan number is going to change. And if we think that the 375 is going to be the same number in November 2020, it's not going to be. I don't know what else to say. I'm not here to fib to you all and say, let's vote for this language. I think we need to get an idea of what we're going to be asking before we vote on the language. And if the sheriff has anything he'd like to add to that, I'm not prepared to vote on the language right now because we don't know what we're going to be asking for. I don't know what I'm going to be asking for. So
I'd like to make a motion to postpone this item to the next month's meeting.
Okay, there's a motion to postpone it till next month. Are you talking about records and public safety, August 8th?
Yes.
Motion, hold on. Is there support for that motion to postpone it to August 8th? Okay, Commissioner Myjack supports it. Now let's have some discussion. Did somebody want to hear from the sheriff?
Right, so right now, where we were at, what was it, 371, we were at, I think it was 6 million, so for the operational cost, that's today. I believe the operational cost will probably stay within reason, unless costs go up. Obviously, construction costs are going to increase, because even if you did November or August, by the time you get a shovel in the ground, it's going to be 2021, so you're looking at...
And if I can make a point of information for you, there is a high contingency number in there, in the plan, a high contingency. I think it's like 13 or 14%. Plus, and I know he's not here, but I remember Director Schmiegel saying we might even be able to save some money overall. So there's no doubt there's going to be an increase in cost, but there may be, you know what I mean?
So the concern is we're kind of shooting right now. They approved the plan, a good thing. I'm not so warm and fuzzy with, I wanted to pick you a date. The reality is, in the language, I think I agree that it should be put off to next month's meeting, so that maybe you can go to your experts and everybody can get together and say, okay, what do we think this is going to come in at? Because if we're going to lock something in and we don't know what it is in the future, it kind of puts us in a tough spot.
Commissioner Brown?
I couldn't agree with Commissioner Caravelli more. I mean, what if there's a recession? What if we go into recession next year and everything goes crazy? It's a long way away for us to be locking in costs and guessing and what the these are estimates we have. These are all estimates, very well thought out estimates, but they're estimates nonetheless. It's premature to be locking this into a number that we're going to have to adopt, especially at this meeting at the minimum. So, I mean, certainly I'll support the motion to postpone to give us some time to think about it some more, because to do anything other than that would be reckless, and I couldn't support that, so thank you.
I'm going to skip you, Leanne. Commissioner Kleinfeld, I'll get back to you.
Thank you. He wants to postpone till next month, and I'm not sure at next month you can necessarily have the figures for next year. So what I want to ask is the actual wording of the ballot language. Do you want to bring that back to us closer to next year, or do you want us to, what is your thought process right now on the wording?
Obviously, we're going to, ballot language really isn't my issue, so that's the one way to sidestep it, but I don't sidestep it. Yeah, I mean, we could bring something back. Obviously, we're going to have to come back and say what the number is going to be. I mean, I can make the call right now, and he's going to use a 5%, yep, that's what he's going to say, and obviously the cost is going to be more than it is today, or with the original plan of this year. So. Okay,
so you think that by next month we could get the ballot language finalized? Is that?
I'm not going to speak to Schmiegel, so again, that's out of my realm.
Do we need a month?
I just didn't want to do it too soon and then have us having voted on the wrong thing.
Go ahead. Yes, of course, Vicki.
I think the preference would be is if you could vote for a date for the election, just to hold the election. That, we still have to come back to you with the ballot language. If we know the actual election date, that then gives us time to prep the ballot language. Because yes, you're correct. There are factors that may change, including values, which won't be available till maybe the earliest at the end of this year, beginning of next year. But at least if you select the date for the vote, that gives us the time to prep it, look at that date, look at the values, and bring it back, and then you would vote on the ballot language. If you don't approve ballot language, it also goes nowhere. So that gives you another opportunity.
Okay, so
Good point. Okay,
so
go
right
ahead.
now we have a motion to postpone for a month. They're looking for a date today. So that's what's on the floor, is a motion to postpone for a month. So I'm going to vote no on that motion because there may be another motion to set a date. And I just wanted to remind everybody what the motion is on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Drollet?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe I should have made a motion to just postpone this, because we don't know what the date is yet, and there's no urgency for us to have to make the decision on the ballot language or the millage amount until we even know what the date is. So perhaps with the approval of the person who flyspecs every motion, maybe we could, maybe I could just amend my motion to say let's postpone this item. Rather than to a month specific, let's just postpone it until a decision is made on what election it's going to be on, and then we can get into those details.
Just for a point, you're talking about motion to table. Postpone has a specific date. I've been advised that you want to table it.
Thank you. I would appreciate that advice. I would be willing, I'd like to make the motion to table as opposed to postpone then.
We're going to ask for support for that. Is there support?
No, don't ask for support because there's speakers, and once
You're
there's
right.
support, nobody can speak.
You're right. Thank you for that point of information. Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add, not to confuse the issue any further, if you go back to the resolution that you proposed, that's exactly where we're at now. That's right. Exactly. And we had 45 minutes of discussion on why that was such a bad resolution.
I don't understand
now
why.
We're right back to where we started. We talked about not kicking the can down the road. We are right back to point A. So congratulations on your resolution. Somewhere in there it must have been good.
Again, it must have been because it was written by an attorney that everybody got confused, but that was the plan, to get it off in November. Yes. What? No, we have a plan that's approved now. We have a plan that's approved. The plan has been approved. Now the question is, you can do it like Vicki said. We can vote today, and I understand where they're coming from. If we vote today to say August 2020, then you're going to be able to satisfy Carabelli because they're going to have some better data from the construction people with that plan that says, oh, if you're going to do it in August 2020 and it passes and then 6 months later we start breaking ground, we think the cost will be this. So we're right back to deciding March, August, or November. We have a plan. That's what we have now. We just have to decide when we're going to put it on the ballot, and ultimately, if we do that, it's going to enable him to give us some better numbers that some commissioners are looking for. Okay, Commissioner Leonetti, forget it. I'll skip it. Commissioner Romano.
Sure you want to skip it?
I've talked
I know you
enough.
like to
I've talked
talk.
enough.
Okay, so this motion that's been tabled, do we have to vote on that first number one?
Yes. It hasn't been supported. There was a motion to postpone.
Yes.
There was a motion to postpone.
That's still on the table?
That is correct.
Okay. So if that is passed, then it's postponed. If that is not passed, can another motion be made for a date certain to put this on the ballot, be it August or November?
That's
and if
correct.
we make a motion to put it in August and that fails, then we'll make somebody else will hopefully make a motion and say, put it on November. Does that simplify it, hopefully?
That's pretty simple.
Can we vote?
You want to vote on this is just to postpone?
Postponement.
That's right. So let's put it to vote. Is there any other speakers? I don't want to cut anybody off.
Cut 'em
I'm
off.
sorry, my computer went out.
Just fixing your computer.
I apologize because my computer's not showing that.
You're on the wrong line.
Vicki?
Go ahead.
If you can come up for a minute, please. I don't want to just postpone this. I don't want to table it. I want you to pick a date, take a guess, November this year, that you think that your information, numbers could come back, and we can change it another month, but I want to pick a certain date so that it does come back up.
Same date or month? August,
Well, that's what I'm saying, but I want to pick a meeting, the first meeting of,
August 8th. Or
No.
2020, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
again, I'm asking, I'd like to pick a date, so if you want to say November this year, for his first meeting, that you guys will put it on our agenda to discuss the dollars and the language, and if you're not ready and you want us to give you another month, whatever it may be, I'd like you to tell us so we can lock ourselves into, here's our timeline of what we need to do.
Well, I'm going to pick conservative then, and I would actually probably say January or February. Because when you start looking at when assessed values come out and things like that, assessed values start to come out, they start to look at that in assessing departments.
So why don't we say...
And if we bring it to you earlier, we'd
And that's
be,
fine. So why don't we
we'd be
say
good.
January to be, just to be safe, and it can be
Sure.
moved either way, but it's guaranteed it's going on that meeting unless it gets brought back sooner.
She's right about the assessors.
Well, okay, well, that's just...
Right, because that obviously plays into the value of the millage. And
Absolutely,
right,
it does.
right.
100%.
Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate for me to withdraw my motion?
Yes.
Yes.
And then if the second withdraws it, then somebody can make a motion to bring it back in January or February. So I'll withdraw my motion.
All right, you withdraw your support, Commissioner Majek? Okay. Great.
I'll make a motion to postpone until February.
To postpone picking a date or anything?
Yeah, to postpone
The
the
ballot.
ballot language and dollars and cents of what we're going to be asking for to be finalized to the first meeting in February of Records and Public Safety.
how about the date?
Hit the first meeting in January of Records.
It's on the ballot.
He's not talking about the
I'm
ballot.
making that first.
He's not, right.
Then fine, let's just do this. Yeah. Okay. You want support? Did you get support? I support it.
Okay, there's been support. Yes, unless there's discussion. Is there discussion on this? Is there any discussion on this? Okay. Let's put it to vote.
Okay, one down.
All right. You want to do a voice vote on this?
No,
Good? Okay. Okay, this has passed, so the understanding is this motion to put it off, was it February or January?
February 1st meeting.
The February 1st meeting of the Records and Public Safety to discuss ballot language, costs, et cetera. That has passed 11-1 with Andre Duge saying no.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion
very well.
that this item goes on the ballot in August of 2020. And we can have the certifying of the ballot language and all this other stuff further down the line. But date certain, August 2020 to put it on the ballot.
Supported by Commissioner Romano and Sauter. Okay. Discussion. Yes, I have to procedurally. Commissioner Kraft?
Is that a proper motion? I'm serious.
It's not on the agenda would be...
Because we've had battles about this for months about what's a proper motion, what can be amended, what can't be amended, when a motion can be made and
Monica,
when it
what's your
can't.
thoughts?
That's not on the agenda.
But the agenda item has in it, it says, if approved, this will be on the ballot for November 5th, 2019. The intent was to pick a date today. So because the first resolution nixed that, it is my opinion that it is a proper motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. The intention was to take it off the ballot.
To take it off of November, so there's still...
Well, wait, don't forget the
I
intent
think-
also
excuse
says we
me.
look at it forward
I'm
on
pretty
March.
sure I still have the floor.
Yes.
Mr. Shapka, you're here.
Commissioner Kraft, I just discussed it with Corp Counsel, and no, you cannot act on an agenda item after it's been postponed. The agenda item was postponed, and then Commissioner Dujay tried to make a motion to act on. Okay.
The timing issue was already decided.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then that'll have to be an item that's put on. That'll be put on. Yep, that'll be put on. No, no. The thing that the plan has been approved, hold on. No, you're wrong, no. So your understanding's wrong. The plan has been approved. We can come back next meeting, August 8th, 2019, and decide to put it on August or November. But the February deal is when we're going to see the numbers. That, again, my resolution was designed to just pass and move this forward. It was poorly written by an attorney. I get it. Right. So we can't do your motion. I'm sorry, procedurally, Andre. So at this point, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which should go.
So I can actually make the motion under new business? Yes. 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 No, under new business?
Hey, Shaka, point of information.
Here comes the ruling.
There was some discussion from Commissioner Majek and some other individuals. I don't care if it's August or November. I really don't. So your next meeting, we can make a decision at that time of it's going to be August or November. I'd like some input from the sheriff. I'd like some input from, the commissioners that are against one month, against another month. I'd like to hear it. And next month, we should be able to pick a date without having an argument of if we can or can't do it.
Is that his committee?
That's my committee.
But there's some debate on the dates, that's all that's fair. All right, let's get some more.
Correspondence, all right. All right, that's going to be by Jolette and supported by Brown. Yes. All right, that passes, I assume.
Mr. Chair.
New business yet? That passed 12-0. All right, new business.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Is this the appropriate time to make a motion to put the jail business on the August 2020 ballot?
I don't have an answer for that, so I'm going to defer to Corporation Counsel. Just make a point, just before you make your motion, Andre, let me just say this. I'm going to put it on the August 8th agenda. I'm going to put that issue on the August, as I promised the sheriff, and as my resolution intended.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Can I ask for a little bit more precision in what the motion is?
The motion is to put the jail question on the ballot in August of 2020.
Put on the ballot the question of should there be a millage, or are we talking about ballot
I think he's saying a motion under new business. Can we do a motion under new business?
Motion under new business.
Don't you have to suspend the rules to do that?
Well, you don't follow Robert's rules.
Yeah.
You have your own rules.
What rules do we have today?
No.
There was no rules today.
Prior board council wrote the rules that apply now. It's not Robert's rules. They're not close to Robert's.
It's not Fred's rules either.
Andre, I think with all due respect, I'm just going to ask that I'm going to take control of this so we can move this thing along. You'll have a chance to address the issue on August 8th. We're going to put it on the agenda, I promise you that. That was my intent all along.
Well, what I'd like to do is have a motion now so that we can go to full, because this is, whether it passes or not is immaterial. The important one is full board, and full board is next Thursday.
Well, we
And
can
I
ask.
wanted to make sure even Commissioner Carabelli agrees, tie it down and be done with it so we can move forward.
Well, I can do this. I can waive it from my committee, apparently, and we can talk to Chairman Smith. It's his committee, the full board. If you can convince him to put that issue on his agenda next week, do it. But for now, we're going to move on. New business. Commissioner Kraft, it better be something good.
It is good.
Okay.
New Haven.
I'm leaving.
You're leaving. Thanks, John. This doesn't concern you unless you want to come to New Haven this weekend. New Haven is celebrating their 150th anniversary this year, and this weekend they're having their celebration tomorrow and Saturday. So if anybody wants to come out, Saturday is the big show with fireworks and everything. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Wanted to know if we could move Thursday's agenda to Wednesday, combine it, do our full board meeting for Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah, yes. All right, does everybody agree with that? No. Yes, the 25th would be on the 24th. All right, Commissioner Kraft?
Just to make note, we have a community mental health meeting at 6, which will force us to be out of here by 5:55. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are you still in support of that? Okay, all right, then I'll talk to staff and we'll move the full board from the 25th to the 24th. All right, I'm looking for, public participation. Hold on, there's public participation. Public participation. I would hope that those of the public know we've been here a long time. I gotcha, thank you. All right, going once, going twice, going thrice. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Gillette, supported by Commissioner Duge. Thank you.
Yeah.